Absolutely, most people can put on Brad Pitt levels of muscle with 2 dumbbells and an incline bench at home for sure.
Why do most people fail to build muscle?
One of the mistakes is not having a well thought out program. Some people have a very linear view of sport and success. The more you do, the better you get. And that's not true. The more you do to a point until your recovery is an impeding factor. And then the less you do, the better you get. Everyone has abs, literally. If you can't see your abs, the enormous fraction of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's because you have too much fat over your abs. Those people are categorically wrong and either scientifically illiterate or ideologically so far gone that they are no longer in contact with reality.
I want to ask you about some personal things. Let's start with steroids, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Mike Israetel, thank you so much for having me here.
Daniel, it's an honor.
Why do most people fail to build muscles, in your opinion?
I think the people for whom muscle growth doesn't really materialize when they're trying to grow muscle are making likely a couple of big mistakes. These are probably the most common mistakes that I see made. One of the mistakes is not having a well thought out program. And well thought out just doesn't mean very complex. Just a program. People go into the gym and do random stuff. Doing random stuff and expecting organized, concrete results is a bit strange of an endeavor. Another one is the frequency of training. So a lot of people will train a muscle group once a week, which is okay, but training a muscle group twice or 3 times a week is much better. Another one is eating enough protein. And a lot of people just don't eat nearly enough protein to make good gains. The same can be true about a sufficient amount of calories. If you're at maintenance calories or gaining a little bit of weight, it helps muscle growth substantially. Another one is getting enough rest and enough sleep. If you're super stressed out and you undersleep, not getting enough sleep is a huge killer of muscle gains. That's a big, big deal. But probably the biggest problem is consistency over weeks and months of training. If you have even a halfway decent program and you eat enough protein, you can make a lot of really good gains, but you have to stick around for months of consistent lifting for whatever muscle groups you're trying to gain, 2 times a week lifting for 4 or 5 months. And then most people see very good gains that are visible in the mirror. But the problem people have is a lot of times they'll undereat protein consistently. They won't be training in a remotely optimal manner, not hard enough, not enough volume, not enough frequency. They won't have a program they stick to, so they just do random things. But the big killer is when every few weeks they take a few weeks off. And it's usually they don't think of it as off, but they're like, oh, I'm going on a vacation, or it's a hard time at work, I got to work more. And all of a sudden they look back at 6 months of training, and they've really over that time trained intermittently for a sum total of about 3 months. And so if you undereat protein, you don't get enough sleep, you don't have the best genetics for muscle growth, and you train 3 months out of every 6, you might not get very impressive results. And especially compared to the results you thought you were going to get, they could be very unimpressive results. So Those are the big things that usually end up detracting people's gains.
And okay, first of all, how common is it? But also, can anyone really do it and get good results?
That's a really good question. Almost everyone, you'd have to go to 1 out of 1,000, wouldn't gain any muscle at all if you really looked closely. The vast majority of those people, as soon as you get them eating enough protein, eating enough calories, being consistent, training hard, training smart, and just doing that process with good sleep for 8 weeks, they're like, holy crap, I'm stronger in all my exercises. I can see my muscles. This is great.
I see. Okay, so there's so many things I want to talk about that you just mentioned, and I want to introduce you before we go any further, because some people may not know you. So you are Dr. Mike Israetel. You are one of the leading experts in the world on hypertrophy science and the science behind building muscle. And you are you inspired me, if I may, to look at myself as a professional and it's really transformed my life. So I hope you can do it for many people as well through this podcast, perhaps.
Well, that's a high expectation. I'll sure try my best.
No pressure,
Thank you
but
so much.
I'm sure you can do it just fine. You are a pro at it. So, okay, so I just want to go into what you just said because there are many things you mentioned, and I want to go into each one of them. So just before we start with the protocol, why do you think people not know this?
There is a difference between consuming knowledge and integrating it and understanding deep concepts, and in doing actions that make you feel like you're consuming knowledge.
Yeah.
And in today's world, we have this new form of content that is very much the latter and not the former, and that's called short form content. So there are people that actually watch a lot of shorts and reels and TikToks and Instagram reels and stuff like that, YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
And what they're getting is, if you imagine the knowledge about any particular subject, in fact, the knowledge about all subjects, but definitely about something like muscle growth, if you were to visualize that knowledge, it would look like a big web of interconnected components. Some connections are bigger and stronger, some nodes in the web where the connections are made are bigger, some are smaller, and that represents kind of the landscape of understanding. When you are reading a textbook or you read a comprehensive article, some of our respected colleagues at another company called Stronger by Science, they publish a lot of unbelievable articles that are very long. Like, it's going to take you 45 minutes to read some of these articles. But after you finish reading one of these articles and you wanted to know about how many reps do I need to do per set to grow muscle, you will deeply understand how many reps to do to grow muscle. But the easier thing to do is watch a few TikTok reels. And instead of getting a very big chunk of the web very well understood, you get one intersection of the web, just one node. And you don't know how it connects to anything. And because when you watch that one TikTok, you watch it in isolation, and then you move on to a dog video or someone getting shot in the street, classic TikTok.
Yeah.
Sounds like my feed. Then you just move away and you never connect that one node of knowledge to the entire network. And what ends up happening is you feel like you know things, but you don't really know things. It's kind of like me watching some videos of ballet that are really cool. And then someone's like, do you know how to do ballet? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Just go on your tippy toes and twirl around.
Yeah.
Show me. Like, oh, I don't know. Whoa, hold on. I don't really know how to do ballet, but I feel like I do. And so nowadays, the best way to acquire knowledge is to watch a long-form podcast, to read a book, to watch a series of videos, like on the shameless plug on the RP Strength YouTube channel. We have multiple series of videos called the Made Simple series. Muscle growth made simple, hypertrophy training made simple, fat loss dieting made simple. And it's about 8 to 12 videos. Each is like 8 minutes or so, but they really cover a good topic, each one, and they connect everything together. You're going to learn some stuff for sure. But if you just watch a bunch of reels, a bunch of shorts, and you follow some people for random advice here and there, and you read their programs, you're not going to have an interconnected web. You're going to have disparate facts that don't connect. And then you're going to do things in the gym like in isolation. Like, you'll just do some kind of bicep curl that you learned about. And someone in the gym is going to be like, why are you doing that curl and not the other curls? You have absolutely no idea. How do you integrate that curl into your other training? No clue. You never were looking for an integrated approach. You were just looking for tidbits here and there.
Yeah. And
with tidbits, you're going to get tidbits of results.
Yeah. Many people consume the entire world this way, and they think they know things.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can just simplify it, we can take this opportunity to give a long-form explanation. Just for the common person who wants to grow muscle, to build it, what do you think the first step they should take?
The first step to take is to understand that muscle growth is very specific, that the muscles you want to grow are going to grow because you're using exercises that push those muscles close to their limits. So if you want to have a bigger chest, you need to be doing exercises that hit your chest. If you want bigger arms, you need arm exercises. If you want bigger legs, you need leg exercises, so on and so forth. Once you understand that, you're going to be able to select exercises and use good technique on those exercises. You have to learn what good technique means. It's not super complicated. You can just watch a video. We have the RP Hypertrophy app where there's a video for every exercise. It's just not rocket science, but you got to do a good job doing the good technique. It's like if I try to teach you how to write in Hebrew, but like you don't know how any of the letters look, you're going to have a rough time because people are going to read what you wrote and you're like, that doesn't mean anything. That's not actually Hebrew. You're like, shit, okay. I actually have to look at how the lines swoop. Like, yes, that's what exercise is. But you know, like when you're a kid, you learn a couple Hebrew letters. It's not that crazy, right? It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So now you know, sorry, go ahead.
No, it seems time consuming the way you described it.
Yeah, but you can just look at a video of someone lifting, do a decent job yourself, record yourself, compare the two videos and be like, close enough. And the closer you get, the better. But it just has to roughly look like it, right? So once you know that some exercises target some parts of the body and that you need to know good technique, you're going to want to pick how much weight you use on the exercise. You need to use a weight that is difficult to do with good technique for anywhere between 5 repetitions in a set and 30 repetitions in a set. So you can do high reps or low reps, but at the end of your sets, you need to be struggling to lift the weight. You need to go so hard that you might have another 3 or 4 repetitions possible until like you just can't lift the weights at all.
Failure.
Yeah, until failure. Exactly. But 3 or 4 reps shy of failure is totally fine. It just has to start feeling heavier or it has to slow down. If it's neither one of those, you're not doing a good job. Like I travel all around the world. I watch people work out. Some people will do a set of 10. It's just like, looks easy. They'll rack the bar. Must have been a warm-up set. They'll do another set of 10, rack the bar. Must have been another warm-up set at the same weight. And then they go on to another exercise. Was that a whole warm-up exercise? Like, nope, they're just like 20 reps shy of failure. And a lot of people who are in what we call adult fitness, people who have jobs and kids and all this other stuff, they want to take a green check mark to their fitness. So they go to the gym, they move around. It looks like fitness, but it's not hard enough. Fitness has to be difficult. It has to be painful. I'm sorry, but it does.
Perhaps this is the main reason people don't do it.
For some people, for sure. Because like, screw that. I don't want to get hurt or I don't want to experience pain in my muscles.
Yeah.
But pain in your muscles is precisely the good sign you're looking for that a set is difficult.
But you said a specific number. You said between 5 to 30.
5 to 30 repetitions.
But if I get failure in 4 or in 33, does it matter?
You're still going to grow muscle, but a little bit less than if it's between 5 and 30.
I see.
Yeah. So once you know that, you need to concern yourself with the number of sets. That's the number of times you do the reps until failure and you rest, 30 seconds to 2 minutes between sets, something until you have your breath back and you feel good energy again. The number of sets for a beginner should start at 1 set per exercise, 1 set per muscle group, per session. And for a few weeks, just training with 1 set is really good because your body's new to the shit and you're going to grow like crazy. And also you're not very good at recovering yet. But over time, you should work up to between 5 and 10 sets per muscle per session. So every time you go to the gym to train your chest, you should do about 5 to 10 sets for chest. You can use just 1 exercise for all of those, but that gets a little boring, can irritate your joints. So 2 or 3 exercises is totally fine. So if you have 6 sets for chest, you can do 3 sets of incline press and 3 sets of push-ups or something. If you have 9 sets for chest, you can use 3 exercises, add a fly at the end or something like that.
Yeah.
The next thing you have to do is make sure that you're training all of the muscles you want to train with between 2 and 4 sessions a week, usually. You can train once and it works just fine, not as well. You can train 5 times a week the same muscle and it can work just fine, but you run into some recovery problems, some injury problems. So if you want a bigger chest, train your chest twice a week. Sounds great. 3 times sounds great. 4 times sounds great. Spacing is important, so you want to give yourself time to recover. So if you train your chest on Monday, maybe don't train your chest until Thursday, and then again on Monday, and then again on Thursday. So now we're training muscles specifically with specific exercises with good technique. We're doing close to failure with sets of 5 to 30 reps. We're doing enough sets, 5 to 10 sets per session, slowly working up to get to there. And we have a good frequency with a good spacing between workouts. And then you continue to run that, and you apply just a few rules of progression. Every time you come into the gym, you can add a repetition to each set. So I did 9 reps of bench press last time at 100 pounds. Now at 100 pounds, I do 10 reps, and the next week 11. Or you can add weight, and I would say add as little weight as possible. Like 2.5 kilos is more than enough. Sometimes 1.25 kilos is more than enough. So 2.5 to 5 pounds every week, but keep the reps the same. You can do any combination of that. If you notice that you're recovering really, really well between sessions, so you have basically like tons of energy and you aren't getting very sore anymore, you get sore, but you heal days ahead of, like after. So let's say you do chest on Monday. On Tuesday, I ask you, how's your chest? You go, it's a little sore. On Wednesday, I ask you, how's your chest? It's completely healed. I could have trained today. On Thursday, I ask how your chest is. You're like, dude, I legit could have trained like Wednesday for sure. Then what you can do is increase the volume for next week. So let's say it was 8 sets of chest that just got you sore for one day, but you have 3 days to recover. Go to 9 sets of chest. And then the next week, if you're still recovering, go to 10 sets of chest. That's optional, but you can do it. Because one of the biggest things, earlier I was saying that some people don't respond well to exercise. The number one thing you can do if you don't respond well to exercise is to do more exercise. Because there was a different hypothesis we had back in the day. We thought that there are 2 reasons on the volume end why people couldn't get their best gains. One idea was that they were not recovering enough. They needed to do less. The other idea was they needed to do more. More one, for lack of a better term. The vast majority of people who aren't getting good results can simply do more sets and get better results.
Oh, I see.
Now, I know that's kind of shit news to hear from most people because they're like, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to go to the gym more. But that's how it be.
Yeah.
Volume is king. It's king in music. It's king in chess. It's king in language. It's king in training too.
Yeah.
It's not great news, but you can do up to 30 or 40 sets per week for a muscle and get better gains at 40 than you did at 35, better at 35 than 30, and so on down the line. So if you're doing 5 sets a week for chest, 10 sets a week for chest will almost certainly give you more muscle growth. That's why we progress volume, but only if you can recover. If your chest is super sore Wednesday night and just barely healed Thursday, do not increase the number of sets you're doing next Monday for a workout. Too much. So we have that progression. The only thing left over is every 2 months or so, every 8 weeks, take a whole week off from the gym. Maybe just do some fun sports, fun hobbies. You can come to the gym but go really light, very low volume. Your body's going to recover, resensitize to gains. You can do the same exercises when you come back, or you can choose some different exercises. Start at 3 or 4 reps shy of failure for all of your sets, lower number of sets, and then slowly work up in weight, slowly work up in reps, slowly work up in sets for another 8 weeks. And voila, there is the basic science of hypertrophy training.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this elaboration. So you mentioned a couple of things that we will get into, like recovery and steroids and many things I wanted to discuss. Sure. But I still have an issue. First of all, the one thing that you get criticized on, and I don't know if it's specifically you, but the muscle science, the science of hypertrophy, get the criticism of you tell people to do less when most people should do more. So I'm surprised by the notion that you just gave. But also, how is it applied to every other person, just the common man? Because it seems like you have to go to the gym, you have to be investing a lot of time. So is there anything you can do which is like very, can be easier to adjust inside your current day life?
Yeah. What you can do is, one of the most powerful things you can do is design your program such that every other exercise doesn't overlap in muscles used with every other exercise. For example, I do squats for my legs. And right after, I do upright rows for my shoulders and my biceps. The upright row doesn't use any of the muscles you use in a squat. And so instead of resting for 2 or 3 minutes between every set of squats, you can do upright rows instead. So you do squats, rest 5 seconds, upright rows, rest 5 seconds, squat, rest 5 seconds, upright rows, rest 5 seconds. If you're a busy person and you have an hour in the gym 3 times a week, if you alternate non-overlapping exercises, which we actually have a bunch of custom programs in the RP Hypertrophy app pre-built for exactly that, then you're going to be in a position where you can do like double the volume and get way better gains, but you're not resting much. Two things are now going to be true. One, you actually get extra cardiovascular benefits from that exercise because you're going to be breathing real heavy. Your heart rate's going to be crazy. Two, it is going to be fucking brutal. I don't do that shit. I'm not that tough. I do jujitsu for my toughness. The jujitsu is not that hard because it's a human being and you can slow down when you want. But it's every time you are in the gym, you are either resting for 5 seconds or you're lifting something. It is brutal, but magnifies your gains like crazy.
I see.
That's a big, big unlock people can use.
Yeah.
It's a shortcut through pain. You know, like in the old like fairy tales, there's like a shortcut through the forest. But there's wolves and shit and bandits.
Yeah.
But it's shorter. So the wolves and bandits in this case are just pain. But you will get better results in a very short time.
Yeah, I was in the military, and over there it's not, gym is less common than just grinding, push-ups and pull-ups and stuff like that. People do become quite, muscular and huge over there. So it can be at home with no equipment, stuff like that.
So no equipment's tough, but if you get a pair of dumbbells and a bench, you can change your body to an incredible extent. You get a pair of dumbbells that weigh 7.5 or 10 kilos. You get an adjustable bench that does incline and flat. And we actually have a product at RP called RP Gym Free. It's just workouts without a gym and just 2 pair of dumbbells. And you can go really, really far with that.
Yeah.
At home with no equipment is tough because a lot of things that require you to train your back and your biceps, pulling movements, or if you think about it, if you're just in a room, how do you pull? I mean, you can do pushing with your legs. You can do push-ups and variations of that with your arms for chest and triceps.
Yeah.
How do you train the side and back of your shoulders? How do you train your back? How do you train your hamstrings becomes a very difficult question. Possible, sort of, but very not so easy.
So is there anything like with light equipment?
Light equipment, yeah. So just dumbbells, just a pair of dumbbells and a bench, you can get into unbelievable shape in most cases.
Really?
There's a very big difference, though, between very awesome shape for a regular person and your best possible shape that you can have. And so if you are able to go to the gym, but you just don't feel like going to the gym, you can get great results with dumbbells at home. But if you're ever out to dinner and you see someone more jacked than you and you're like, I want to look like that. And you're like, hey, how do you train? And they're like, well, I do this, do that, do that. You're like, it sounds like you're going to the gym. They're like, yeah. What, you don't go to the gym? And you're like, well, I train at home. And they're like, what do you have at home? You're like, a pair of dumbbells and a bench. They're like, all right, well, this might be about as jacked as you get.
Yeah.
So one thing that really interests me on a human level is people have this simultaneously endearing and valuable quality and simultaneously toxic quality of wanting to put in almost no effort and getting the best results.
Yeah. But a lot of people do want it. So this is
100%.
Yeah.
And that idea of putting in almost no effort and getting a ton of results is the basis for a lot of innovation. I mean, like...
Yeah, Bill Gates has this famous quote that he wants the laziest person to in a project because he will find the best way.
100%.
Yeah.
So like, in today's world, we have AI. I don't want to go to the library. I don't want to read books. I don't want to learn shit. I just want to ask something a question and get an excellent answer. Well, no, that's true. But like AI is not magic and it requires people to make like data centers in the middle of the desert and it's all this crazy shit on the back end.
Yeah, and he makes mistakes.
It makes mistakes, and so, the mistakes are declining very rapidly, but like, the shit's not free. Someone's got to pay for it. In the world of lifting, you can get great results with very little effort, but your best results require very serious commitment. So if I was in Israel and I was visiting and somebody came up to me on the street and they looked pretty good and they're like, hey, I have dumbbells at home and I do X, Y, Z. I'm like, how's that? Okay, give them a few tips. I'm like, yeah, you're doing great.
Still many people do want to get, they don't want the best body possible. They just want to be like Brad Pitt, just, without the shirt in the beach and have a bod,
A Hollywood actor known for his body. Minimum standard, right?
Yeah. But he's
I don't
not
want to
like
be pretty. I just want to look like Gal Gadot, right?
Yeah.
So you show up to Victoria's Secret or some makeup store, you're like, just make me look like her. I don't want the best. Like, you do realize she's a supermodel, right?
Of course, fair
but
enough.
like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, not huge,
Exactly,
not shredded. So the good news is leanness is entirely dependent on your diet and physical activity, and really just mostly your diet. How much muscle you can put on absolutely, most people can put on Brad Pitt levels of muscle with 2 dumbbells and an incline bench at home for sure.
Okay, so how do you balance this with getting lean?
So one of the best things to do to get lean
while gaining muscle.
Yeah. So is to take a year or two to just worry about gaining muscle first. Because all of the pictures of starving people that you've seen through history books, they're lean. You don't want to look like them. Why? Because they don't have a lot of muscle. That's the real big problem.
Yeah.
And so when you have a look that you're going for, it's good to put on some muscle before you start shredding the fat down. Because it's very difficult to put on lots of muscle while trying to get lean at the same time. So what you want to do, if ultimately you want to be a little bit more jacked but way leaner, is for like a year or so at the beginning of your journey, try to eat at maintenance. So look at your body weight every few days on the scale. Try to keep it the same. Eat plenty of protein. Lift weights hard 3-4 times a week for 45 minutes each time. And eat mostly healthy foods, and you're going to put on tons of muscle, and you're actually going to burn a bunch of fat, because if your weight's the same and you put on muscle, well, fat has to be getting burned out of the equation somehow, because otherwise your weight would go up.
Yeah.
Then, when you're ready, what you do is you keep your protein high. You take 12 weeks looking ahead, and you go, okay, don't have any business trips, don't have any crazy parties. You get to a time in your life when all of your relatives or all of your friends have kids that are bat and bar mitzvah age, and you're like, fuck, October, I have 6 bar mitzvahs. There's no fucking way I'm dieting, right?
Yeah.
And so just pick a time when there's not a ton of stuff going on. You take your protein, you keep it high, 1 gram per pound per day, right? 2 grams per kilo per day or something like that. So if you weigh 70 kilos, 140 grams of protein a day, solid. And you eat 4 or 5 healthy meals. Each one of those has a meaningful fraction of protein in it. And then you take your carbs and fats, start with your fats, but maybe some carbs too, and you lower it to create like 300 to 500 fewer calories coming in than normal. Make sure that your physical activity is the same it always is. I use a step tracker. It's on me all the time. And so 10 to 12,000, really 8 to 12,000 daily steps. Make sure it doesn't go down, because when you're dieting, your body makes you really tired. You stop moving and you stop burning as much body fat. Same daily steps, 10,000 roughly. Create a 500 calorie deficit by eliminating some carbs and fats. A lot of people can do that just by like eating less junk food. Like that means don't go to Yashka's all the time, which is terrible. I every time I'm in Israel, that's the only place I eat. It's sort of a joke. It's sort of not a joke. Because people are like, we were there with people like, oh, try this great restaurant. We're like, yeah, cool. Is Yashka's open? They're like, yeah. Like, oh, I'm going to Yashka. So do that for like 12 weeks. You will lose kilos and kilos of body fat. Keep training hard with weights so that your muscle doesn't go away. You'll keep your muscle and you'll lose a bunch of fat. After that 12 weeks, maintain again for at least 8 weeks. Let your metabolism recover, let your brain recover. And then if you want to get even leaner, try another 8 to 12 weeks of exactly that. High protein, slightly lower carbs and fats, create a 3 to 500 calorie deficit. Get lots of good sleep and be patient. There are many ways people screw up their fat loss diets. One of the biggest ones is trying to just get all the weight off in like 3 weeks. Because you look at ahead and you're like, I don't want to diet for 12 weeks. How can I lose a lot of fat in 4 weeks? Well, it's possible to lose a lot of fat in 4 weeks. You lose a bunch of muscle as well. And you're going to drive your hunger up so much like crazy that as soon as you're off the diet, you're going to eat everything under the sun. You're just going to get fat again.
I see. Carbs doesn't affect the muscle at all?
It does. But muscle is not so difficult to maintain. It's very difficult to gain muscle. But maintaining muscle once you've gained it is actually not so difficult unless you really screw up.
Oh, really?
So the 2 biggest problems that you need to fix with muscle loss is number 1, getting enough protein daily. Number 2 is getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
If you don't get enough sleep, you're just going to lose a shitload of muscle. It's real bad news.
Yeah, in my place, it's very tough with, every now and then you have this situation and you need, alarms, you can't go to sleep. It's every couple of months. It's very, cortisol levels are high.
Cortisol levels are high, A state of permanent war is not good for muscle growth, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah.
But so sleep, high protein, and making sure that if you start to feel weaker in the gym and you've already been dieting for 8 weeks, considering going through it, but if it's another week and you're still losing strength, sometimes the biggest fatigue from dieting comes from just dieting for too long. And your body's going to kind of tell you when it's been too long. And so if you've dieted for 9 weeks, you lost really good fat, but now you're starting to lose strength, which probably means muscle mass, switch to maintenance or switch to a slow gain instead. And then multiple months later, you can come back and do another 6 or 7 weeks and get really shredded. People want to get shredded right away with one diet. Usually, if you look at bodybuilders who get shredded for a living, their before picture looks like everybody else's after picture. So if you want to get ultra shredded, starting lean is a good idea. So I used to talk about this a lot, the 2-step diet. Step 1, get lean, take a break, multiple months at maintenance. Step 2, get ultra lean. But some people get greedy and they want more, and then they start losing muscle and they don't know what happened.
Oh, I see. But okay, so how much calories is an effect when in fat loss and in gaining muscle? Because in fat loss, many people say it doesn't have anything to do with fat loss calories.
Yeah, those people are categorically wrong and either scientifically illiterate or ideologically so far gone that they are no longer in contact with reality. Some of those people are doing it for financial gain because they have products to sell. I think everyone does some financial gain products to sell, so it's not convincing to me. There's plenty of products to sell without lying to people.
Yeah.
But when people say calories don't matter for fat loss, that is almost always and almost everywhere totally wrong. If you gain muscle at the same time as losing fat, as a new beginner or someone who's just recently started training again after training for a long time and then quitting, you can lose a lot of fat and gain muscle at the same time. And then the calories can be at maintenance, but you're losing lots of fat. If you want to lose the most fat that you can, you need to control your calories. So if you talk to, again, bodybuilders, there's like in Tel Aviv, there's like thousands of these people.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, so you're going to do a fat loss diet? And they go, yeah. Okay. So you get to eat as much food as you want. They're like, what? No. They're like, okay, so you don't eat as much food as you want. No. So how do you feel? Like, I'm starving. Okay. But I thought you could just eat good food and eat as much of it as you want because calories don't matter. They will look at you like you're speaking a totally different language. Like, what? It's just not true. It's just not true at all. A 750 calorie daily deficit is possible for short periods of time, but makes you real tired and really starts to risk muscle loss. A 250 calorie per day deficit absolutely burns fat sustainably for weeks and weeks and months, but it doesn't impact the scale as much, and it draws out your diet to be much longer than it needs to be. It's like if you have to go to a movie and you're driving to a movie theater and, the maximum speed is 60 kilometers an hour on the road, but you're going 30, your friend is going to be like, why the hell are you going 30? You're like, well, I want to be safe. Like, well, dude, the speed limit's 60. Like, come on, man. Nobody said go 90, but you could at least go 60. So that's the draw against, that's the downside of 250.
So you think people who say that calories don't matter are just misinformed or something like that, or even malicious? Because there's this whole fasting thing and stuff like that.
Pause. Fasting. How many calories are you consuming during a fast?
Nothing. No.
Weird. It's a calorie deficit.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Fasting is a way to create a calorie deficit. That's literally it. The people who are against calorie, so sorry to finish the thought really quick.
Yeah.
Something like 300 to 600 calorie daily deficit, 400 to 600 calorie daily deficit, around 500 calories seems to work for many people as a good balance between too fast and too slow. It preserves muscle, but it burns lots of fat. So I'd say starting there is a good idea. As for the people that think calories don't matter, I mean, so if we're going to really steel man their position, they sometimes have some good points. They'll say that calorie counting doesn't work super well.
Yeah, in long term, it's
and it's because people just don't like to
sustainable.
count things in the long term.
Yeah.
Or they make mistakes in counting, right? But, altimeters on airplanes also sometimes are mistaken. That doesn't mean airplanes don't fly up. So
it's just the basic law of physics.
Basic laws of physics. The airplanes fly higher than the ground. So if your altimeter says 0, but you're still in the clouds, the altimeter is wrong.
I see.
The other thing is, if you just try to eliminate calories or reduce calories in your diet, but you're not eating foods that are very nutritious and foods that are very filling, you're going to cause some minor nutrient deficiencies and a lot of hunger. And that's probably going to kick you right out of the diet, and you're going to quit and say it didn't work because you tried it for 2.5 weeks. It was just too brutal. So if you're eating cheeseburgers all the time and you're, I want to lose weight, I'm going to eat half a cheeseburger instead of a whole cheeseburger, you're going to run into a problem that you eat half a cheeseburger, you're psychotically starving, and it's going to ruin your whole life, and you're going to quit. But if you're eating some ground turkey and some broccoli and some olive oil and some brown rice, then all of a sudden you're like eating, to you it feels like just as much food, but it's half of the calories of a cheeseburger, but it fills you up so much, gives you so much energy that you feel amazing. So some of the people will see that eating healthy foods works better for that reason, and they'll say, see, it's not the calories. But if you measure the calories of the diet they're doing, they create a calorie deficit. There are some prominent people that say calories don't matter, and I don't speak to them as humans, so I can't reliably tell you what their motivation is. Also, people lie about what their motivations are.
Yeah.
There is a huge temptation to tell people not to cut their calories because people don't want to cut their calories. Like if a friend of yours tells you, I want to move and go to school at a nice town or a nice university, you both know it's good for his career. But let's say he has a girlfriend in the place he lives and she doesn't want to move. She wants to stay there. She's going to tell him all kinds of stuff about why it's good not to move to the university. She has a vested interest in him not doing so. If I look around and I happen to be a fucking charlatan and I look at people don't like to cut calories, how can I tell them with some grain of truth that calories don't matter? Wow. And then there you go. But calories do matter a ton. And also now because we have weight loss drugs like Ozempic and stuff and tirzepatide, Mounjaro, creating a calorie deficit is really easy to do. And you can just do it. Eating healthy and creating a calorie deficit is really the best way to lose fat. So the people that say calories don't matter, I guess they're sort of like people who think magic is real. Like I just don't think it's super productive to be including them in conversation.
If I can perhaps still man the case even further, perhaps some of them are applying women's health to men's health and mixing them both up. I don't think they say that calories doesn't matter, just as you don't need to count calories because it wouldn't be possible long term. This is what I hear usually. And most of the time it's people who usually work with women.
Yeah. That was true until the era of weight loss drugs. Women have a huge evolved resistance to fat loss. Fat is what allows women to feed their babies. And so getting lean for many women is way harder than getting lean for many men. Because the evolutionary logic is the male is like still alive. Okay, cool. The body's like, fuck it, lose some more fat. I don't care. A woman needs a substantial amount of body fat to feed potential children. And so when you start getting a woman really lean, the body goes, what are you doing? Your job is to be a reproduction engine and you're screwing up the fuel source for that.
Exactly, yeah.
And so many women have a psychologically more difficult time with diets because their degree of hunger and cravings is psychotic. And then when you tell them, oh, you don't have to count calories, you don't have to worry about calories, then they're like, oh my God, thank God. And they'll follow you wherever. Yeah. There's another thing where just counting calories can make you feel really constrained psychologically. Some people prefer the constraint of food groups rather than calories. So if you tell a woman, look, if you eat lean meats, fresh veggies, unprocessed fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats, you can eat a bunch of that stuff and you will lose fat or you just won't gain weight. Why? Because imagine you were like really hungry and someone's like, dude, I'm going to make you a meal and you can eat as much as you want. All you can eat buffet. The buffet has ground turkey, broccoli, green beans, olive oil, and brown rice. And you're like, okay. So you eat a couple plates and you're like, I'm good. Like, you sure you don't want more? You're like, for sure. Now, if I give you chow mein, egg rolls, cheeseburgers, French fries, and I say, you got to count the calories, it's going to be so fucking painful because the food is so tasty that reducing the calories of that food is really, really difficult to do.
I see.
So a lot of the people who experience this I didn't count calories but I lost weight thing are really just leaning into healthy foods. The reality is just combining them both is a real good idea. So when you're not worried about actively losing fat, eating mostly healthy foods will keep you from gaining lots of weight. But when you really want to lose some fat, then you take the foods, you portion them out to make sure the calories line up, and then you stick to both calories and healthy foods.
I see. Okay, so I have so many things. I hope we get to everything because you're mentioning so many things that I want to go deeper. Let's see if we can manage. So first of all, let's dive into, because we're in this area, abs are created in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So if anyone want to, make their abs go bigger or look even more appearance, everything is in the kitchen. They don't need to do any ab exercise.
None.
Everyone
has abs, literally. And if you can't see your abs, the enormous fraction of the time, 99.9% of the time, it's because you have too much fat over your abs. And if you
perhaps you can explain why do we have fat even? Because it will be easier to understand.
Yeah. Because we sinned against God. And no, sorry, wrong story.
No, yeah, you know what I meant.
Yes, of course. Actually, let me adjust this thing, go up a little bit.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
Humans have a tendency to be able to put on fat because we evolved over millions of years in an environment of intermittent starvation. Sometimes you found a lot of food, sometimes you killed a big animal, sometimes not. And even through the agricultural period, which started 10,000 or so years ago, sometimes the harvest was really good, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was harvest season, sometimes it was the end of winter or the beginning of spring when your people start dying. And so your body can't just run off of the dependable availability of food. It's got to have a system for taking calories from food you eat today and giving them back to you to fuel your systems months from now, if it comes down to it. And that's why most humans are very good at gaining body fat, because it's saving your life. You can think of a body fat like a gas tank. Imagine, you've seen I guess this is not a very good Israel analogy, but in parts of the United States, there are big states like Utah, Nevada, and Texas, where there's like lots of space between gas stations. And a lot of trucks have very big gas tanks so that they can make it between gas stations. Some of them are closed. It's too late. They have to be able to go hundreds of miles. And you can say, well, why does that truck have such a big gas tank? You have to spend more fuel hauling that around. It's more energy. It costs you more money. Why don't you just have a little tiny gas tank because you just stop at gas stations? Well, because gas stations are not dependably around every 5 miles or something like that.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And so back in our evolved history, we starved so much that we got really good at saving up a lot of body fat and making sure that we had plenty of energy when the times were bad. In today's world, we have this magical invention called the supermarket and the entire logistics supply chain from farm to supermarket. And so that means you can get food anytime you want. Our brains are just about the same as they were through all of evolution, though, and so we really like to eat tasty foods constantly because our brains look at tasty foods and go, oh my God, this never happens. This is something you need. It's going to put on a lot of body fat. You need body fat.
So body fat is a feature, not a bug.
Huge feature in our ancestral society. In today's society, total bug, massive bug, big problem. And so what ends up happening is people have the ability to put on body fat, and their ability to lose body fat is not very good because your body doesn't like it when you lose body fat. The thing that your body only wants to give body fat away for is starvation. because that's the purpose of body fat, is a starvation, anti-starvation mechanism. So when you want to lose fat, you have to present your body with a gentle version of starvation, which is called a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
So we're back to that.
Yeah. So if we, the thing that I want to address, because it's not very common to lose fat and keep the muscle that you are keeping. Okay, most people that I see, they're starting to diet very, aggressively, lose their muscle immediately.
Uh-huh.
So what do you think that is? What is the bullet, the silver bullet in this?
Yeah, the silver bullet is 3 silver bullets: eating high protein, training hard with weights, and making sure to never go more than about 500 calorie daily deficit. Because if you go with a small daily deficit, your body kind of looks around and goes, okay, we can spare some fat for this. If you have a very high daily deficit, your body's like, we need to be burning anything we can. And muscle is a tissue that your body does a really good job of only building and retaining in a very short supply and demand loop. Like if your local pharmacy sells, they have 20 places on the shelves for toothpaste. But they notice that some people just getting their toothpaste on Amazon, or some they're just not buying toothpaste anymore. After a few weeks of the toothpaste not getting off the shelves, they're going to reduce that to 15 or 10 places where you can buy toothpaste on the shelves instead of 20. Because why? Sell other stuff that's selling better. Your body does a similar thing with muscle, where if you don't consistently train muscle hard, your body's like, hey, we have a calorie deficit. Where do we get it from? And it kind of looks around and goes, fat? Like, no. We're not starving yet. Okay, well, we'll just use some fat.
Oh, wow.
What's this muscle doing? Like, nothing. Why the hell is it here? Like, I don't know. Well, fucking burn it.
Yeah.
So, because muscle
There's no necessity for it.
There's no necessity. Yeah. So you have to create the necessity with weight training. So you weight train regularly, hard, just as hard as you were during gaining. You're not going to lose much muscle when you're dieting, as long as you eat plenty of protein and you're making sure to not go super crazy hard on the calories. Sleep is a constant for all of these, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to assume for the rest of this conversation that you're getting as much sleep as you can.
Yeah, no, and I want to get into it. And recovery as a whole is a concept that specifically from you, it transformed the way I look at myself as a professional in any field.
Cool, okay.
Yeah, so I want to go into this a little bit more. But first of all, let's discuss strength for a moment. Because what do you think is the most important component in being powerful and with strength as a whole? You do jiu-jitsu. Not all the people in jiu-jitsu are very muscular.
Yeah.
They have other features. So what do you think about it?
Muscle size is the biggest component of strength by far. It explains a huge fraction of the variance in strength.
So in Khabib versus Conor, it was physical muscle, you think?
It's the same weight class, so they're both lean, so they probably had about the same amount of muscle mass.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And I don't know who's stronger between Conor and Khabib.
I think
that comes down to technique. So how you apply yourself. So Conor versus Khabib, Khabib is a very good takedown artist.
Yeah, grappler.
He's a very good grappler, and he's a very good offensive and defensive striker. And so you're probably not going to knock him out, but he's probably going to take you down. And once he takes you down, you're in real deep shit. Whereas Conor is like a miracle striker, where he'll find your chin somehow. And he did that to everyone for like 4 years undefeated. And if he can't do that to you, his grappling by top MMA standard, by regular people's standards, is a killer.
Yeah.
By top MMA standards, not the greatest grappler. Khabib is a generational grappler, and so that's why that played out the way it is. But I would say they're probably roughly the same strength, roughly the same muscularity. Now,
just when you say strength, what do you talk about? Just physical
the ability to produce force.
Produce force, yeah.
So like if you have a scale and you invert the scale, so instead of pushing on the scale, it's pulling on the scale, and we attach a rope to it and you pull on the scale, how high does the scale go? That's all strength means, how much force you can put out. It is a component of combat ability, of fighting skill, but is just a subcomponent, an important one, but not the only one.
Isn't it important for a human being to be powerful in this matter? Because I know people who can knock you out in, just with your pinky, and they're not very muscular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they were muscular, they could knock people out even easier.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we have weight classes in combat sport. You can show me a very good lightweight boxer, and you say his technique is so good he can knock everyone out, and then I give you Tyson Fury, super heavyweight world champ, okay, or heavyweight world champ rather. Okay, where's your lightweight boxer? He's getting his head blown off his body because Tyson Fury can punch, but he weighs like hundreds of pounds and is big muscles and also has good technique. And so muscle is a very, very big deal to combat ability, which is pretty much the only reason that weight classes exist.
Of course, and men versus women.
Definitely. Yeah. There's more going on there than just weight classes, though, and just muscle. There's something else there.
But if I may challenge it, it's just because, of course, you are correct. This is not an issue. But there is an importance, in my opinion, to have the ability to endure things. Perhaps this is another component of strength. And what do you think is this aspect has to do with people and how they live their life? Just the ability to endure hard things.
Yeah, it's great. So as a sports scientist, I have to say there's only one definition of strength in sports science. It's the maximum ability to produce force in a given movement.
Of course, yeah.
But if you're talking about things like mental strength, resilience, these are huge factors in day-to-day life, in sport, in any endeavor. The ability to sustain difficulty and bounce back is massive. It is actually very complicated. It's not just one factor. So, for example, some people perceive difficulty with a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, but they're very good at contextualizing the pain and suffering and proceeding. Some people just don't experience as much pain and suffering as other people, and so they have the same ability to take pain and suffering, though subjectively it's just not as difficult for them. Combining those two factors together, you get super elite people who, when they push themselves to the limit, it's just way beyond everybody's limit. These are trainable qualities, but also have large genetic components. Some people are just destined to be, what is it, Sayeret Matkal? But most of us are not, because those are just special people that can also be trained up. But all of us can take a little bit of inspiration from that. Probably the biggest thing in increasing your mental toughness is to consistently present yourself with difficult but not impossible challenges, be successful, and then rest. And then difficult but not impossible, be successful, rest. And slowly you're doing more and more difficult things over time. So after a while, someone's like, hey, let's say you get somebody who's 5 years old. Can a 5-year-old diligently work on mathematics problems for 4 hours straight? No. They're just going to start drawing cartoons or screaming, who knows. But as children age, their brains mature, and in school they're expected to do longer and longer bouts of work. And after a while, they can sit for 2-3 hours and do diligent work. And the best way to do that is slowly over time expose yourself to difficult things, succeed with them, and come back, rest, and just go a little bit further next time. Big deal.
Do you know I'm not sure even if it's correct scientifically, but Uberman, as I'm sure you're aware of him, has popularized an idea, which is that there's a part of your brain, I'm never going to remember this part, but it's something in the prefrontal cortex, which is being adjusted to hard things when you do hard things. Like there's an hypertrophy aspect to this part of the brain, which when you do things you don't want to do, it grows.
Yes.
Is it correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh. The important thing, though, is to avoid two problems. One problem is not doing enough hard things and letting that component of the neural network sort of atrophy, and then you're not really good at pushing yourself. But the other one is doing too many hard things, because you can get burnout. You can get so overwhelmed with difficulty that your brain basically goes into fight or flight mode. Is like, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. And then anytime you try to do hard things after for some time, you will get really high heart rate, really high breathing, really fight or flight, and you won't be able to persevere through hard things because it's just kind of too much, right? In the military, they don't want to be too easy on you in training because what the fuck, you're going to war. But they don't just line you up and beat the shit out of you for 8 hours a day, because they'll break stuff and you'll just won't want to do anything anymore.
They 100% do it.
They 100%, yes. And if they go too far with that, then it's wrong.
Yeah, they go too far and it's wrong, but they do it.
Yeah.
And it perhaps makes you stronger. I
doesn't.
100% can do things that I would never be able to do without my military training.
That's because they didn't break you. They went pretty close to breaking you, but they didn't go over the line. You want to, in your own personal life, military or not, make very challenging moves for yourself, but not overwhelming moves for yourself. Because if you overwhelm yourself enough, you're just going to actually get used to so much stress that you won't be able to recover from it, both psychologically and physiologically, and then you won't get much better. I really wish the more stress you expose yourself to, the better you got, because I would just be in an electric shock chamber right now, becoming the world's toughest man. But human limits have to be respected.
Oh, I see. It's fascinating to see this balance, because there is this, you are a big, you went to Chris Williamson a bunch of times.
Yep.
And he's a big advocate for doing hard things. And many parts of his podcast, they're talking about it. And the glorification of doing hard things for the sake of doing hard things. And I really appreciate it, because I think it can be, in entrepreneurship, this is the biggest thing to be, the biggest thing that will set people to failure or to success is how they can endure beating their head against the wall for how many times,
You think so?
I'm certain of it, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
No, but there is this limit. I understand what
There's a limit.
Yeah.
There's a limit. Chris and I have had discussions on this. Some of them are on podcasts. And Chris has himself drawn attention with other guests to the fact that there are limits to these things. And some of those podcasts are actually really, really good.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get to a point where you constantly feel like you need to be doing more to psychologically punish yourself. You want to be intelligently applying difficulty and intersperse that with recovery. Because if you're not recovering properly, then you can't actually ascend to more difficulty. And then you start to not get any better at anything.
I see.
So like the world's best commandos, for example, there's a very big difference between two elements of special forces training. One element is selection. They have to find out who they want. They want to push you to your breaking point so they can see where your breaking point is, and they just took the top 10 guys who are the most skilled, who have the highest breaking point. That's who we're going to pick. Because out in the real world, we just want the people with the highest breaking point.
Yeah.
But that's not how they train. That's just selection. And I think people glorify selection and think that's how they train. The way that special forces guys actually train is they typically wake up pretty early. They go do a weight training workout. They go do some MMA training, some basically combat training. And then they go and do their jobs, which is like, going and shooting various targets and people's various scenarios. They do that a ton. And then they go home and they get a lot of rest. They get a lot of food. They get a lot of sleep. And they come back and do it again and again and again and again and again and again for years. And then they're the best in the world.
This is the special forces in the U.S., in the Marines.
This is special forces standard way of doing things in every elite special forces unit around the entire world. And I guarantee you it's the same way in the Israeli special forces.
Really?
Yep. They don't just burn these guys to the ground because they're useless to you if they just burn them to the ground all the time. Your top tier operators, you want them well rested so that they can push their hardest. Like if you have the guys doing close quarters combat for 18 hours straight and everyone's missing targets and they're half asleep, it's dope vibes. It's great for selection to see who can be pushed the furthest. But once you have selected the team of top commandos, you need to make sure that they're at their best. They're just like athletes. They're like athletes in almost every way. You get an NBA coach that has his guys on the court for 3-4 hours. That's good training. He has them on the court for 8 hours a day. They're just going to start getting hurt. They're going to start missing shots. Now they're learning how to do it badly. Because every rep you have where you try to shoot the gun, if it has to be really good technique. If you're so tired that you can't do good technique anymore, but you're still practicing reps, those are bad reps. It actually makes you worse.
I see.
And so there's a very big difference between selection and actual training. The thing is, selection has some really cool media exposure because it's so glorious. And every guy thinks, I wonder if I could make it through selection. But almost no guy thinks, I wonder if I would enjoy the lifestyle of a Delta Force operative. They don't even know what that lifestyle looks like. And that lifestyle is substantially more chill. Here's another thing. If you're in elite special forces, you're always on call to some extent.
Exactly.
So if you're super fucked up from beating the shit out of yourself all the time, you're going to make mistakes out in the field. That's not allowed. So you want a sustainable training strategy which you get better. Times of incredible difficulty and then times of rest. Incredible difficulty, times of rest. And then by the time that you have to go on call, you're pretty well rested. You're ready to go do incredibly difficult things. And I would say that same strategy goes really well with most of life. There are times to push yourself well beyond your limits, but then you need to pair that with times of rest and relaxation and have a consistent ability to push hard, relax, push hard, relax, push hard, relax, because some people will push themselves so hard, they'll burn out, and then they're worse and somewhat useless for some amount of time or forever. Other people will never push themselves very hard, and they just don't get much better. The balance is a big, big deal.
Just one thing is that I think the reality of war itself perhaps doesn't give you this opportunity. Sometimes in the field during war, you are just burned out and you still need to keep going.
Need to do your job.
Yeah.
There's a reason why in war there's a rotation. So you're on the front lines for some time. Ideally, if there's enough reserve, then you get rotated out. You go in the rear, you sleep, you rest, you eat, you train up again, and then you go back to the front lines. If you never rotate out, two things happen. One, you lose all your best guys, and two, they just start to suck, and then you're not accomplishing the mission anymore. In existential wars for survival, everyone's got to do what they got to do.
Yeah.
But most wars have some degree of flexibility in the rotation of troops from front to rear.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think in Israel, this is exactly where we stand.
Oh, yeah.
So, many reserves are not being fulfilled. So it's an issue. But
It's a huge problem.
Let's get into this rest thing that you're talking about and recovery as a whole concept. What is recovery? Why is it necessary? And what is fatigue even?
Yeah. The best analogy I've been able to come up with over the years for fatigue is what happens to a restaurant kitchen during the normal hours and days of operation of a restaurant. Several kinds of systems are at play, and all of them are kind of good analogies for what happens in the body. One thing that happens when you're running a restaurant is that, let's say you have the basics: flour, eggs, milk, things like that, spices, etc. If you run a restaurant really hard, you start to run low on flour, eggs, milk, butter, etc., and you need more of them. In physiology, that's called substrate depletion. So there's a kind of carbohydrate inside of your muscles called the glycogen. It helps power muscle contraction. If you start running low on glycogen, your muscles don't contract as well. They can't produce as much force. They can't produce as much endurance. And then you start to suck. And so every now and again, you need to do less physical activity and eat lots of food and lots of carbohydrate to get a lot of glycogen back into your muscles. Just the same way as a restaurant kitchen needs to shut down at 12 a.m. And in order to start opening up for lunch the next day, somebody has to run to the store or order a delivery and get flour and butter and milk back in. There is another type of situation, which is the accumulation of wear and tear. When you're in a restaurant, you start out with, 200 glasses, 200 pieces of silverware, and, 5 really well-functioning stoves. Over weeks of being in the restaurant business, glasses get broken. Customers walk off with your silverware. I don't know how often that happens, but every time I go to a restaurant, I steal something. It's just, I have to. No, I'm kidding. They're fucked up, right?
Yeah.
That out of context quote, that's it. I'm canceling. So
yeah, but I see the clips already.
That's it. Beautiful clips. And I do it, I just want to be clear, for racist reasons. Just make the clips even better. Right? So the stove, after 4 weeks, you have 5 stoves. Now you have 4 because the stove is broken. And so wear and tear, here's another quick one. You have pans and pots, but they get dirty. And so you have to wash them every now and again. And so the same way your muscles get little micro tears in them, so do your tendons. Your nervous system depletes substrates and gets little wears and tears in it, so you have to take time. And so the best food at restaurants is made when you're actually using all of the equipment, using the substrates, using the chef's. Here's another one. Your chef gets tired. Can you imagine you order something at a great restaurant, Michelin stars and shit, and it arrives wrong? You're like, I said no olives. And they're like, oh, fuck, sorry. Well, our chef's been awake for 16 hours. I don't really care about that, right? Like I paid the same money as the guy who had the chef when he was an hour one of being awake. So to run a good restaurant, you need to reorder supplies. You need to get somebody to fix your stove. You need to reorder glasses. You need to clean. Sometimes you need to pull the stove out and clean underneath the stove and put it back in. You need to wash the dishes, and you want to make sure that you have a good staff that's rotated and rested so that they're really good at their job. Because that's what makes the best food. The best gains in the gym are made with systems that work really well. And you start out your training, be it a session, a week, or a month, or even a year, with really set systems that are working awesomely. Fresh crew, fresh produce, fresh ovens, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So do you look at the human body as a machine in this part?
I don't look at the human body as a machine by analogy. I look at it literally as an actual machine. Yeah. The human body is an actual machine.
Oh, I see.
Period. And so all of the general principles applied to running machines apply to the human body.
Which is just that it was designed by evolution and not by another human.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. I was designed by aliens to be the most good-looking man of all time.
You specifically, yeah.
But there was a problem in the process. They fucked up. So, but in any case, so basically, as you start out your first month of training, hey, man, you got enough forks and knives and the kitchen is clean. But after an hour or two, well, like you're running out of eggs. After a week or two, like a couple of forks are bent and you can't use them anymore. And after, several months, one of your stoves needs to be fixed. And so that accumulation of good gains occurs at the same time that fatigue goes up. You check a restaurant towards the end of a night of its operation, and you're like, guys, how are we doing on making great meals for people? We're doing amazing. We've made 3,000 amazing meals. Okay, how are we doing on the fatigue? Right? How clean is the kitchen? How much are we missing? How tired is the staff? Not so good. And so in order to come back tomorrow and do another great job, what does every restaurant do after its hours of operation are over? Clean everything, restock the shelves, and all the employees go home and get a nice solid night of rest. They come back and they do the same thing next day. Your muscles work exactly the same way. And so you can beat the shit out of yourself, which is great, but you need to make sure to eat plenty to restock the shelves, get lots of rest, get enough time for your muscles to heal between bouts, and making sure that you are sleeping enough. Sleep is really how your body heals and recovers itself. So that's the idea of fatigue management in a nutshell. If you're ever confused, the restaurant analogy works every time.
Yeah, okay, so I want to go further into it, but just if I may, I want to say that this is the component of your message that really resonated with me and helped my career just skyrocketed when I started looking at myself like that. And I started to understand when I'm not in my full ability to do the proper work and give yourself the time to recover, and you will perform better. And do it good enough. It will be best for the business, the soul, the body, everything.
Huge.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the people listening to this podcast, I assume, are going to be Israeli.
Not all of them, but yeah.
Not all, but some. A lot.
Yeah.
So, folks that are Israeli are known around the world for their incredible ability to do lots of hard work. And all of us come from a common culture. I'm going to get real racist here, but especially if you're Ashkenazim, then you come from a culture in which hard work is not aspirational, it is minimum. It is expected.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, like a lot of other people in the world, get huge amounts of guilt when we're resting.
Yeah.
Huge. I'm like, fuck our religion. It has a day of rest programmed in so we don't feel bad. Like, shut up. God said it's Shabbat. Don't do anything. You're like, oh, okay, if God said, fine. But you're still trying to do a little bit of work because you feel guilty all the fucking time, right? And so I'm from that exact same tradition. My brain works exactly the same way. So when I'm resting, I feel bad about it. And it helps to understand that if your only job is to be the best worker you can be, the best career person, the best soldier, the best nurse, the best doctor, the best computer programmer, everything, that your body is a machine and requires rest. Can you imagine how ridiculous it would be if you talk to a data center operator and you were like, hey, so you're just cranking these GPUs all the time? He's like, yeah, pretty much. Okay. So you don't ever like trade out the GPUs that are broken or do cooldown times or audits? He's like, no, we do that all the time. Like, well, don't you feel guilty about not running the calculations? You'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's a machine. Like, it's just going to break if we don't do these things for it. Okay, so you're telling me that you don't push maximum throughput, like, because the GPUs will burn out, but it's for the good of the long-term output. Like, yes, that's correct. Okay, cool. That works exactly the same way in all of our personal lives. So if you're properly doing a good job at work, trying hard, then having a relaxing time every evening with your family or taking weekends off or with much less work isn't something that you morally earned because you're working so hard. It is a proper and diligent operation of the machine. Because if you told a data center operator, dude, it's fucking wartime, baby, crush these GPUs, he'd be like, get out of my data center, you idiot. Like, we're not giving the machines a break because we have compassion. It's just how you operate a machine. Wow. So don't worry about having compassion for yourself, whatever crazy Jew shit is in your head, like it is in mine, whatever. Take a break because a machine needs a break. So some people think, I'm a machine, I don't need a break. Give me a machine example that doesn't need a break and a refurbishment and technicians to look at it. It doesn't exist.
Of course. Yeah, the one aspect I would love it if you would elaborate on it. It's I heard you one time explain this separation between types of athletes, which some athletes are very able to rest and some of them just can't do it.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, does justice to understanding it.
Yeah. Athletes fall on a spectrum. Two ends of that spectrum. On one spectrum are athletes that you have to keep from doing too much work, and they refuse to rest, and they'll just find ways to work instead of rest. On the other end are athletes that you have to make go to training, otherwise they'll skip training, and at training you have to yell at them for them to work hard enough.
Yeah.
Both extreme ends of the spectrum are a bad idea. Somewhere in the middle of that spectrum are athletes that can diligently work, but can rest and relax without any guilt. Those are world champions.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you haven't been around world champion athletes, it's easy to have athletes take up a aspirational role in your mental model. Athletes to us symbolize hard work, champion athletes. And if you hang out with champion athletes, you realize that it's not just the hard work, but it's their ability to rest as well. The best athletes I know that they're in the wrestling mat, they're in the gym, they're in the pool, they're on the track, they're insane. But then afterwards, they like switch off.
They have an off switch. Yeah.
Huge off switch. Like if you look at most of the best players in the NBA in basketball, I think like the Sony PlayStation and the Xbox need to be like recognized as like adjacent recovery tools.
Yeah.
Because these guys, when they're not playing basketball, they just play PlayStation with their friends and eat a bunch of food and then sleep for like 11 hours. And that is every bit of what makes a champion athlete as playing 6 hours of really tough basketball every day. Because if you do one but not the other, you're going to burn out and you're going to suck and you're going to get hurt and it's not going to go well for you.
Can you explain how is it possible that playing PlayStation and it just helps you with recovery?
So it makes you not move around. So it literally your body's not trying very hard.
Watching Netflix and the things that people say it's hard, it's not good on the TikToks and everything. Yeah.
Scrolling on TikToks, watching Netflix, playing PlayStation, as long as it doesn't get you really emotionally frustrated, as long as you're having fun, it sits you down on your ass. Because if you do 6 hours of sport training per day, you don't need more movement, you need less. And something that makes it so that you're not doing other shit is amazing. And if you're eating lots of tasty food and doing lots of leisure activities, especially not super physical ones, you're doing great. What you really don't want to see as a sport coach is athletes doing difficult leisure activities. So if you have athletes on your team that are high level, and when they're not at practice, they're like, hey, do you want to go hiking? Do you want to go mountain climbing? Do you want to go like cycling and ride our bikes around? Do you want to play hard games of tennis for fun? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Coaches will straight up tell you, I had better not see you do anything physical outside of this fucking court. When you're off, you switch off. Now, a little bit of light activity is actually really good, but it has to be relaxing. So as long as you're staying away from crazy sun exposure and you're staying hydrated, go golfing or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Golf's that pretty fucking easy. If your grandpa can do it, it's not that hard. That's totally fine. But if you're challenging yourself with extra workouts, extra this, extra that, emotionally, it satisfies all of us who look up to great athletes because we take inspiration from it. We go, man, you know, a good t-shirt for sports is like, do the extra, right? It makes us feel a certain way. But if you have proper sport coaching, your sport coach already designed your workout to be as close to your limits of recovery as possible. And if I'm a sport coach and I know my athletes are doing extra, I'm having a real fucking serious talk with my athletes.
Yeah.
Like, you assholes, don't you think that if I wanted extra out of you, I would have fucking programmed it in? Like, yes, coach. So when you go home, you better switch on that PlayStation or get your ass to Pornhub, whatever. I'm kidding. Yeah. Maybe whatever it takes to chill out. Have all the athlete friends come over, play a nice few games of cards, have some snacks, have some good food, sleep a ton, take naps, so that when you're in my possession in the weight room or on the court, you are doing only war, unlimited psychotic warfare. I want you to damn near die in here. But when you're not in here, you have to flip the switch completely in reverse and go to chill mode. And that is a huge deal. Huge deal. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
Some of the best athletes can flip the switch so well, they can actually flip it during times of competitive engagement.
I wanted to give the example of Messi, which he does it. There are a couple of criticism of him, which one of it is that he walks on the field most of the time, and the other players allow it. They're running for him. Because he's just resting, he's looking for the opportunity, and he takes it.
Yeah. Do you want Messi to be hardworking, or do you want to score a lot of goals? Real simple question. They only keep track of one of those in soccer, by the way. Can you imagine if, like, your team loses like 4-5, that they count all the steps that everyone did, and because your team did so many more steps or ran so much, like, actually, that's an extra 2 goals. And what are we fucking talking about here?
Yeah. So but the other thing about him is, first of all, he comes like a famous anecdote about him. He came to Miami like 4 years ago. The first training he came like 4 hours before, and he trained by himself and everything. Yeah. But the other component is that he rarely go to the gym. He doesn't even. He tries to do as little as he can outside of soccer, outside of football, and it shows in his performance.
It does.
Yeah.
The amount of gym time you need for soccer players is probably like 2 hours a week. Exactly. And people like to pretend it's 8 hours a week. People really just have, some people have a very linear view of sport and success. The more you do, the better you get. And that's not true. The more you do to a point until your recovery is an impeding factor. And then the less you do, the better you get. Here's an example of the kind of athlete mindset that leads to champions. Let's say you're in a playoff situation. So let's say you're in NBA basketball and you have to win like 4 out of 7 games or something like that. And the games, they're like every few days you play a game. So you have a few days of rest, you play a game, few days of rest. Sometimes it's back to back, usually not. The athletes that between games are like just zoned in, locked in, super focused, training a ton, thinking about the game all the time, unable to relax. It's interfering with their sleep. They get worse every game of the series. Some of the best athletes have this cool trick where if you didn't know any better, you would think they don't actually like to play basketball. They show up for the game and they come in like, I think African American athletes set the standard for this. The speed at which they walk in to the game is hilarious. Like, this guy's 6'8", but like a person who's 5'1" can walk faster than him because he like take a step every 30 seconds or something. He's got his hoodie on. He's like, just kind of leaning side to side,
Yeah, doing a
talks to
favor.
the security guards a little bit, bullshits with people, talks to the media a little bit, gets in the locker room, doesn't even change, looks around, bullshits with the players, bullshits with the coach, gets to changing, and then slowly warming up, and then more warming up, and then shots, and then the zone, and then game time, and then he's insane. He just boom, boom, shots, and all that stuff. And then after the game ends, he goes home, chills out, has a burger, has some chips, plays PlayStation, goes to sleep, and the next day, when they have a game at 7 p.m., he doesn't wake up at 7 a.m. and eats fucking raw eggs. He wakes up at 11 because he went to bed at 1 a.m. the night before as he was watching Netflix. He got his ass 10 fucking hours of sleep, and then he's like, ugh. And his girlfriend's like, you got a game today? He's like, is today a game day? Yeah. Yeah, you got a game today. You do not want to be waking up and be like, it's fucking game day, because you burn psychological energy that whole day. So if he has to, the game is at 7 and he has to report to, the stadium at like 3 or 4, well, he's going to be taking his sweet time doing fuck all between then. Shit, he might even fire up the PlayStation again, have a meal, take a nap again. And then he's like, it's time to go to the game. And it's just, and then he walks in slow as shit. And then he slowly warms up, is the best athlete in the world, and then switches it right the fuck off.
Yeah, so many things, a couple of things I want to say. Is, first of all, a Michael Jordan example comes to mind when you say about this thing. That first of all, people say about him that he knows when to peak, which is exactly what you're saying. They know exactly when to peak, which is not even during the entire game. It's the moments, specific moments.
Oh, yeah.
But also, another thing that people say about him, his greatest skill is detachment from what he can't control. So there's only this basket that I need to score right now. Yep. Nothing else matters. So when he goes out of the field, he can play golf and think about anything else.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
100%. People have a passion and a dedication for their sports as young athletes, and they think about their sport 24/7, which is awesome. But as you become a professional, you learn that what you really need is to perform on the day, and that whatever it takes to relax you is what you should be leaning into when you're not performing. Because in Hollywood movies, the athlete that's driving his car, thinking about the game, blah, 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 that's the archetype. Yeah. And that's cool for Hollywood because you're there for 2 hours and they have to make some kind of compelling narrative. But in reality, when you talk to good athletes, they're really good at switching it off. There's I just had the opportunity to train in the weight room with Matt Fraser, who's the greatest CrossFitter of all time, arguably the fittest human being that's ever walked the face of the earth. And
the fittest,
yes. Yeah, I mean, you can see if anyone can beat him at his thing, but you can't. So he told me that there was, during his CrossFit prep, after the CrossFit games, he wouldn't fucking go to the gym for like a month or two. Just do fuck all. Go hiking, eat, whatever. Just don't even think about. And after every CrossFit games, they'd ask him, are you coming back next year? He's like, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. Now, holy shit, what a gift. And then he would have, during his CrossFit prep, as the games got closer, he would start to get more intense. But during he had, I think, at least one day every week, which was a recovery day. And he said that he would wake up and spend the entire day either on the couch or on the carpet next to the couch, stretching, foam rolling, eating, and watching bullshit on TV. One whole day. Imagine spending time with him on that day and being like, a day in the life of the most elite athlete on the face of the earth. And you're like, okay, we're in hour 8, and he's just been eating donuts and drinking protein shakes. And he's like, sometimes does a stretch, but usually does nothing. You just sit on the couch and chill. What the fuck? There's no glory in that, but that's the recovery, so that Monday he can come in and declare total war on the gym and continue to be the best.
Amazing. So first of all, how do people take this and apply it to their life? This is this aspect of how it really transformed my life when I took it as something I can do. But how can they take it? And then we'll get into like the protocol for muscle growth and other stuff. But just to excel at your thing and be Yeah.
So it happens on multiple time scales. So I'll go through a sample of some of the time scales that are involved just so people get a good understanding. If you, let's pick somebody who works, I don't know, let's say they work in software. And let's say they work for one of the major AI labs. Somebody who works at Anthropic or OpenAI or Google or, I don't know, Tesla, XAI. And, they're at work for, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. Your best work is going to come from something called deep work, when you're really zoned in on what you're doing. But deep work's not sustainable for but a few hours because it's just so fatiguing to your brain that you need a break. So what you want to do is show up to work and ease into some work. You don't want to just lock yourself in a room and just eye laser at the computer. Look at some stuff that's easy to do. You got a few bugs here and there to squash, no big deal, just that. And then you get into some real deep work. Isolate yourself if needed. Really zone in on doing the programming you're supposed to be doing. Probably for about 2 to 4 hours. Very much depends on the individual, but let's say 4 hours. And 4 hours is a lot of deep work. After that 4 hours, you're tired, and your output is just going to be shit quality. They do not pay you a gazillion dollars an hour to have shit quality at Anthropic, for sure. So then you just walk out of your little cubicle or whatever, stretch out, have a snack, bullshit with other employees for like half an hour or even an hour. And so if someone comes to visit the lab and be like, employees are working hard, I see, and they just talk to you and you're just doing fuck all, they're like, what the hell is this guy for 40 minutes? He's been doing nothing. He's just like eating Cheetos and bullshitting in the kitchen.
Yeah.
He's resting. When you're feeling good and ready again, you go back in for another 3 hours of really deep work. And then you go home. You leave. Because at some point so that employee would leave the office. And maybe they would go do some fitness stuff. Get the body moving, all kinds of great benefits of fitness, and massively reduces stress. Because mental stress is super, super helped with hard physical work. After hard physical work and that exhaustion you're going to experience, mental stress tends to evaporate. That should go away in a little bit.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Okay. So once that person goes home after the gym, let's say it's 7 p.m., and they don't go to bed until 11, you want 4 hours of the most relaxing, most fun, most easy shit you can possibly think of. Hanging out with the family, walking the dog, eating some food, watching some Netflix, whatever, playing some board games. Easy, easy, easy.
Just one thing. Most people do wake up and think immediately about work and go back from work and they think about it and they stress over it and they should send this mail and and Netflix doesn't do the trick perhaps. So just what would you say to those people?
Have something more involved that takes your mind away from work, that's not as passive. Pick up some kind of active hobby. Play some chess or some shit like that. Think about chess instead of thinking about your work. If you're thinking about your work, you should probably go to your home office, start doing work, and then when you can't do work anymore, leave and just go think about anything else. You can watch compelling things on TV that take you away from thinking about your work because it's so entertaining. You can spend time with friends and family in interactive discussions, which are really, really awesome to take your mind off of work. Because if you're debating some stupid shit about some TV show you saw, and you're like, no, that character is better, your character sucks.
Or being angry at TikTok, at Twitter.
100%. Yeah. Even being angry at Twitter is better than thinking about work. But probably nothing that evokes a lot of negative emotion. You want to chill, rest, recover. Be like something you would do on vacation. Every evening of your working life should be a mini vacation.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends, ideally, you want to switch the fuck off completely and not think about work at all unless you don't have to. So that every time you come back from a weekend, you are fresh, you are ready, you are excited about work, and you're dependably doing deep work. So people should take breaks every now and again at work Every evening, they should take as much time as they can to do pure leisure. Every weekend, they should make as much of an effort as they can for as long as they can to do pure leisure. And every several months, at least, vacation.
You have a protocol for this?
Yeah. Well, so there's two kinds of vacations you can take generally. One are active vacations, like you go to Paris and you walk around Paris to see Paris. Museums, restaurants, whatever. It's super entertaining, but it's not going to make, it's exhausting. And maybe it's not exhausting, it's at least not recovering you.
Yeah.
There's another type of vacation, which is the relaxing vacation. You can do that at home, by the way. Or you can go somewhere, go on a cruise, or go to a luxury hotel where you just unplug like shit. Like you just do hardly anything, and you just, towards the end of one of those relaxing vacations, you should start to get weird, like cabin fever. You should start to be like, damn it, I need to do something with my life. I feel like a lazy piece of shit. Good. Now that means you're recovered enough to where you're ready to go back. So the time at which you know you're for sure ready for vacation is when work becomes so fatiguing and stressful that you're like, dude, I'm fucking going to quit. I can't do this anymore. Great, go on vacation. Towards the end of vacation, you're like, man, I need to work. Otherwise, I'm going to be like going insane. Great, now you go back to work. Several months of work, several weeks of vacation. Several months of work, several weeks of vacation. If you can't pull that off, pull off the best version of that you can. If you go on vacation twice a year for 1 week, better than not. If you can go on vacation for 2 weeks every 2 months, well, shit, that's really ideal for many people. Most people don't do that. I do suspect that as AI and robotics do incrementally more work, that people will be able to finally get as much of the rest as is optimal.
As perhaps the only thing that will stop them is the human nature that wants to, as you said before, the guilt of resting and taking a vacation. I don't think it's very common. And I think the thing that you said about the athletes, especially in the NBA perhaps, they treat every time off the court as a vacation.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, some of them don't even play basketball when they're off the fucking court. And some of them don't even watch basketball. They don't even give a shit.
Yeah.
Some of them do, but they treat it more as chill time. And there's, so you have to make a great point that like, as we're liberated to do more vacation and more rest because we're making more money, etc., many of us don't do that. And we instead just do more work.
Especially in America.
Definitely in America. You should see how the Japanese go on vacation. They're like, I'm not going to work 18 hours today, just 16. And I feel real guilty about it. So there's definitely a situation where what you should be doing is not what you're going to want to do. But again, it comes back to a hierarchical level of understanding. If what keeps you going to work is your reflexive, almost obsessive compulsive nature, you're no better than an animal. Your dog chews the bone because he can't not chew the bone. Yeah. You go to work because you can't not work. That's totally fine, but don't you dare expect maximum performance at work, and don't you dare expect maximum longevity and quality of life because you're burning both of those, because you're working based on an addiction. If you want the best out of yourself at work, if you're truly serious to be a professional, then you take your time off and time of rest as importantly, as seriously as you take your work time, and establish that logical balance between the two. And in full disclosure, I say all of this as a gigantic hypocrite because I don't take nearly enough time off.
Oh, yeah.
I do way too much work. And when I'm resting, I am haunted by guilt almost constantly.
Why is that? Because you think people will, move past you on the field of your entrepreneurships? No? Why is it?
Because I am a Russian Jew and it's in my blood.
So you're addicted to work.
I grew into this, and no one even in my family expects me to do this. It comes from deep within. It's a trait in psychology. It's a sub trait of conscientiousness called industriousness. If I'm not working, I feel meaningless and guilty for not working. And someone could say like, well, isn't it optimal for you not to work? To which I say, yes. I even have a nice drug habit to help me with this. I used to do edible marijuana. I do drinkable marijuana. We have marijuana drinks in the United States now. America's a land of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so
I wanted to ask you about weed because
I
know you were
yeah, for sure.
fan.
We get to it.
As I told you before we were outside, I told you I spent some of my year in Amsterdam. So,
my man.
Yeah, this is a great place to rest.
Yes, exactly. And so one of the reasons why I take weed is because it allows me to really do one thing. It gives me a categorical reason to stay away from work because I'm too out of my mind to do any productive work. And so almost as soon as I take a sip of the weed drink, it gives me some kind of permission to be like, dude, you can't do work anyway. It's like one of the things that makes athletes rest is when they get hurt. Like if they're cast on their leg, they're not going to go play basketball. It keeps them away from the game, arguably in a good, some good way. That's a little extreme.
Yeah.
But for me, basically weed is so debilitating that like I can't work. And then when I'm like not high anymore, I'm like, hey, I actually rested. That was really cool. I didn't do work. It doesn't always work like that for me, unfortunately, because sometimes when I take weed, I get a lot of creativity. And then I like have to write down my ideas, some of which are totally shit, insane drug people ideas. Other ideas are actually really good. I'm like, oh, God damn it. Why am I having good ideas when I'm supposed to be relaxing? So my solution to that is to take so much weed that it's just mostly nonsense. If that actually does help me on the aggregate, weed has tons of side effects I hate. I'm not in love with the whole process. But for me, my drug use in that regard is really to treat my Jewish insanity of constantly thinking I need to be working.
Now, as you said, I think I can relate that this is the effect of weed on me as well. But I will go back into resting and in a moment. I just want to ask you about it because there is this correlation with many athletes use weed, and especially in...
no way.
No, they do.
No, for sure. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. And also specifically in jiu-jitsu. It's a common thing. It's they have an entire culture about it.
Oh, yeah.
So is this something combined in there for you?
I know a lot of guys who actually train jiu-jitsu high. I'm sure it's a vibe, but when I'm high, like violence is so far away from anything I want to be doing that it just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I see.
But God bless the people that do it. It does really, for me, weed really does shift my vibe towards relaxation so much that it facilitates my ability to allow myself psychologically to recover. So that's huge for me.
So you say that weed helps you with your endeavors in fitness? Like it helps you grow muscle and all? Yeah,
for sure. Just has to be intelligently managed. So I only do weed like typically 2 or 3 days in the week. I don't do it every day. I also
it's a luxury that not many people are able to do.
Weed every day?
No, the other way around. Most people, if they use it, they will go into a daily habit. Or the other way around.
Yeah. So the first day after 2 or 3 days of not doing weed, you get like a mini hangover and you feel like, oh, if I did weed, everything would get better. You just have to be an adult about it and be like, I'm not doing weed.
Yeah.
Shut up. And then after a few hours, you feel great again. And then after a few days, you don't even want to do weed, but then you do it in the weekend because you've got to recover. And then I would do weed early, because doing it late at night interferes with your sleep to a substantial extent, and that's bad. And so typically I will get high on the weekends sometime between 12 and 4 p.m., but I only ever take enough weed to get me really high. And because it's edible or drinkable weed, I mean, I'm high for like 6 hours, and then I'm stoned for like 3 or 4. And so my typical experience is get high, hang out with friends. Some folks who've met me in real life have met me high. Sometimes they can't tell. Sometimes I just tell them. And then eat a bunch of food, and then sit in front of go home, shower to get ready for bed, do all my bed things, and then sit in front of the couch, completely stoned out of my mind, and then at some point realize I fell asleep and transfer to bed or just sleep on the couch. And that's kind of the protocol. So
very good to hear, because interfering with your sleep is I think the biggest issue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's go into sleep, and perhaps we'll go back to it further in our conversation. But sleep, you mentioned several times during this talk that it's one of the most important components of muscle gain, but also just for recovery as a whole for your body. So Yeah. What should people consider when they sleep in recovery?
Yeah. So a lot of people are looking for an amount of time to sleep as a recommendation, which is a real smart thing to look for. And I would say for those folks, 7 to 9 hours is the amount of sleep most people need. That varies enormously based on genetics. So some people need 6 hours, and anything more, they feel weird. Some people need 10 hours, and anything less, they feel weird. The best way to tell how much sleep you need is how much regular sleep can you get and not be feeling like that. You know that when your eyes kind of hurt, that whole thing when you're not getting enough sleep?
Yeah.
How much sleep do you need to not be drowsy during the day and not have your eyes feel like they're hurting? Some people are like, dude, are you crazy? That's like 8 hours for me. I can't do 8 hours. Well, at least you know. And then you can re-architect your life to try to get to as close to 8 hours as possible. But for some people, it's 6.5. And then they're like, look, I've tried to get 7.5 hours of sleep, and I just wake up early and I stare at the sky and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And I'm like up. And once you're up, that whole feeling, cortisol gets high enough, you're like, I'm not going to sleep. If you get that, but you're recovering well, everything's going well, hey, looks like you won the lottery. But once you know roughly how much sleep you need, for me, it's about... Is that going to bother the audio?
No. Go ahead.
It's about 8 hours for me. 8.5 hours for me is like if I'm training really hard and I need a lot of recovery, 8.5 hours is really good sleep for me. If I'm not training super hard, 7.5 hours works for me super, super well. So for me, it's 8 on average. And that's a number I've gotten to know over the years. It's not just something that like I do 8 hours because I have to. But it's really important to stay in touch with your body to know how much your body needs. If you overconsume caffeine, then you'll have a problem detecting that amount. So some people, when I say you need to have enough sleep such that you're not tired in the middle of the day and drowsy, and they're like, what? Like, I'm always tired in the middle of the day and drowsy. You're like, okay. And I usually say without stimulants, you have to be not tired in the middle of the day. And they're like, dude, no way. Because if I don't have stimulants, I'm just going to sleep for like 12 hours. And then I tell them, you are chronically sleep deprived. There's no other way. And they're like, shit. Because caffeine and other stimulants can mask the effects of not having sleep. But under the hood, you're still fucked up. And so it's really, really important to understand that sleep is, if you're trying to optimize your life from a health, longevity perspective, work, athlete, muscle growth, sleep is a non-negotiable. I will hang out with my friends, hang out with my family, and in many days at 8 or 9 p.m., I'll say my goodbyes and I'll go drive home. And man, for adults, that's just kind of when the kids go to sleep, and it's a really good time to hang. But in most cases, I do not hang out late because I need my sleep. Because if I didn't make an effort to go home at 8 or 9 p.m. and eat my last meal and really prepare and really relax, then it would really strain the imagination as to why I pump steroids into my body and sacrifice so much of my time lifting and doing jiu-jitsu and all this other crazy shit. So if I'm not going to get enough sleep, I might as well not be doing that shit either. And then who cares, right? Just lift a couple times a week. Don't take steroids. Don't do tons of crazy sports. And then, hey, I could stay up till 2 a.m. and it would be totally fine. But if you're really serious about your diligence, getting enough sleep is a big idea. Here's another thing about sleep. Naps can help, but if your naps are longer than 30 minutes, then they start to interfere with your ability to fall asleep at night. And contiguous sleep is better than dispersed sleep. So sleeping for 7.5 hours through the night is seemingly better than taking multiple longer naps through the day and only sleeping 4 hours at night. So naps, I'm generally against. Sometimes in some cases for athletes, they're fine. But really when athletes start napping a lot of times they just start going to bed at 2 a.m. because they're so awake from their nap, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing about sleep is the way to fix your sleep schedule, if you have a bad sleep schedule, is not to start going to bed early. Because if you go to bed early but you're not tired, you're just going to lie awake. It's going to be a fucking waste of your time. Mm-hmm. It's to wake up early. It's actually the more difficult thing of the two. But if you wake up early, let's say you're typically going to bed at midnight, but you want to make a change for the better, and you know that you're a morning person, and you want to start going to bed at 10 p.m. so you can get enough sleep and wake up at 6. Well, set your alarm for 6, and if you are awake till midnight, wake up at 6 anyway. You'll have one day there where you're really tired. By the time it's 10 p.m. the next day, holy shit, you're going to be going to bed no problem. So having a very good wake-up time through the week is a really sharp idea. Another thing about sleep really quick is that you want to retain some semblance of normalcy through your daily and weekly sleep schedule, such that if you have Sunday through Thursday nights, you go to bed at 11, is it okay to go to bed at 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday? Yeah. And wake up 2 hours later? Yeah, it's fine. But 3 a.m.? Oh, geez. Look, it's fine as a human being. You got one life to live. Might as well have some fun. But if you're trying to optimize for sport or for career or for longevity, then making sure that there's roughly a 2-hour window of difference between various times you go to bed on the weekends versus on your week is very important, I would say.
Okay, so first of all, just real quick, do you not consume caffeine?
I almost never consume caffeine, but that's because I'm like very awake anyway.
Yeah.
I don't need any more mental stuff. I also don't respond well to caffeine in the anxiety department. I get quite anxious, and I don't like that. It's not a very pleasant feeling. I will take paraxanthine every now and again, which is a downstream metabolite of caffeine, but it doesn't seem to cause nearly as much anxiety. But also the big problem with stimulants is that you get used to them so quickly.
Yeah,
I don't need any more drugs in my life, first of all. And second of all, I don't need any more drugs that I can get used to.
Yeah.
So if there was a type of caffeine that didn't make me anxious, worked reliably for 8 hours and then switched off, didn't interfere with sleep, and also just went like, I could go months and months and months and months and years with taking it without any kind of like accommodation effect or acclimatization. Well, yeah, that would be super, but that's not the case.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So the thing that I hear from you is that it's very, you can detect it by yourself, by your feelings. So if you're feeling sleep deprived, you probably are. But how can someone know if they are doing the correct amount of rest for their goals, they build muscles and anything like that? Is it by your feeling? This is how you learn how to adjust it?
So it's a combination of factors. I would say at least 3. One is what's called desire to train. Like, how much do you feel like training? There's a normal amount you'd feel like training. As you go weeks and weeks of hard training, that amount can decline. If it declines to a certain point where you're like, dude, I don't even want to train, now it's time for a break. So desire to train is a big one. Another one is kind of perceptive stuff. How tight are your muscles? How sore are your muscles? How sore are your joints? If you're really, really fresh, you can probably train. If you feel really beat up, maybe it's time for a break or kick your workout down another day. But the most important factor in working out is performance. So if you're typically bench pressing, 75 kilos for sets of 10, but then the last 2 weeks it's been like 65 or 50 kilos for sets of 10, you're fucked up. It's time for a break. But if you feel tired and your muscles feel sore, but you're doing 80 for sets of 10 instead of the typical 75, and that's the time to tell yourself, look, like my performance is still really good. Shut up, do what it takes mentally, and keep going. Performance is the ultimate arbiter in the physical world and the exercise world of, are you recovering enough? It's actually the definition of recovery is, did you make a return to your past typical levels of performance?
I see. So this is how athletes measure it, perhaps. And this is how any one of us listeners can do it as well.
Absolutely.
I see.
100%.
So it can be even in the example of the people in tropic data centers. If they're working less efficiently, they know they need to rest.
Yeah, so like that works on multiple time scales. Let's say you're doing deep work, and for the first 3 or 4 hours, you're just on fire, man. Ideas and everything's coming together. And after like 6 hours, you've like read the same prompt 3 times, and you're like, this isn't making sense anymore. It's time to take a break. And if after 8 weeks of super crazy work, multiple releases, big news at the company, you're going to get acquired, blah, 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 and you're just like, someone's like, hey, what do you do for a living? You're like, software. They're at a restaurant, you're eating, and they're like, do you love it? And you're like, do I love it? It's time for a vacation. When you're like, have so much work and so much on your mind that you're not even looking forward to coming to work because you feel overwhelmed. That feeling of being overwhelmed is typically one of the very good signs that you're doing too much.
The thing about the vacation, real quick, is that you said about the person who's sleep deprived and he doesn't know it. As soon as you just give yourself the time to get the amount of sleep that you need, you will be able to return to a regular cycle of sleep so quick, but people don't know it for years sometimes. They can be you need 12 hours one day and you'll be better.
Sure. Okay, very good point. Absolutely. That's called sleep debt. You can pay off your sleep debt.
Yeah, yep. I heard you talk about it. It's very, very important.
The problem is that paying off your sleep debt makes you normal again. But it doesn't unfuck you for the days that you've been building up that sleep debt. It's kind of like, this is going to be a shitty analogy, but I think it works. You've been real shit to your friends lately. You've been rude. You've been pissing them off. You've been borrowing things and not returning them. Talking some smack behind their back. You feel bad about it. So you take all of your friends on this unbelievably exotic 5-star vacation. They love it. And you give this whole speech about like, hey guys, I've been shit to you, but I love you. And they're like, dude, you're the man. Who cares? This is great. Did that vacation you take your friends on get you back to good standing with your friends? Yes. Did it eliminate their memories of you screwing them over? No. Do they think less of you for screwing them over? Yeah, they should. Because you did that shit. There's no undoing it. And there's no undoing the 5 hours of sleep you got Monday through Wednesday, no matter how much sleep you get Thursday. Now, after you get enough sleep Thursday, you've stopped the bleeding. Another good analogy. Getting 12 hours of sleep on a Friday night is like having a wound in which you've lost a bunch of blood. Getting 12 hours of sleep means the wound isn't bleeding anymore. Success. But the blood you lost, it's going to take a while to get that blood back because your body has to regenerate it. It's not a blood transfusion. If it was, shit, man, you could do 2-3 hours of sleep every night for 3 or 4 days and then make it up with 16 hours and be good as rain. But you're not. The damage has already been done.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you need way more sleep to recover, but the sleep debt doesn't work in that linear pay-for-pay fashion. It works in a way that some of the damage does get undone, a lot of it doesn't get undone. The second time you start screwing your friends over after you've taken them on a big vacation, they're like, dude, fuck you. They don't want to hang out with you anymore.
Yeah.
Because they didn't forget.
The example of the debt itself is a very good one because, as you said, you take like $30,000 from the bank and you come back and you give $500 back and they look at you like,
yes,
there's more to give.
Okay, this is good that you started, but there's more to give, 100%.
Yeah.
And there's actually, the bank analogy is a very good analogy. Unfortunately, it breaks down because if you borrow $30,000 from the bank and you pay $30,000 back later, that's cool. And that completely sorts you with the bank. Matter of fact, the bank likes that you borrow money from them and pays them back with interest later. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The problem is that the sleep debt situation doesn't work like that. There's no way to pay back the interest. And so once you get enough sleep, you don't have a debt with the bank anymore. But let me give you another analogy here. If we're going to go with the really Jewish one of debt, like that motherfucker. So we'll do another one. Landlords, and that's what half the Jews are, right? So if your rent payments are late several months in a row, that sucks. But after a week and a half or a week of them being late, you pay your rent. Does that mean you get to stay? Yeah, your landlord said pay your rent, you're fine. But are you the number one customer for your landlord because you always pay a week late? No, he fucking hates you. And as soon as there's a reason to kick you out, he will because you don't pay on time. The damage is already done when you're late. And there's no way to pay it back. So the sleep debt situation is much more like that.
I see.
Oh, yeah, you can pay off the sleep debt, but you don't get back all of the low performance, all of the health risks, all of the muscle you lost or didn't gain, all the fat you gained or didn't lose during those 3 days in which you were sleep deprived. The reason I'm saying this, Daniel, is because people all around the world, professionals, athletes, don't get enough sleep and say, I'll just make it up when I have time.
On the weekend,
It doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't.
So the best thing to do is just regularly get the best
Regularly get your sleep.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
I want to ask you about some personal things. Let's start with steroids, if it's okay.
Yeah.
You are a big advocate, or I don't know if you'll preach about it, but you are upfront and public about your own consumption of steroids.
Yes.
So why do you take it? What does it benefit you? How does it benefit you?
To get more muscular.
Yeah.
And stay more muscular.
Yeah, of course.
And it benefits me by enhancing muscularity and also enhancing recovery so that I can train harder and recover better and become more muscular.
And what about the side effects, the cons?
Yeah. So it's increasing my probability of having cancer. It's increasing my probability of developing heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
It is
testosterone, how do you say it? Testicles issue?
Testicular atrophy. So I don't have that. I never got that one.
Yeah, but it's a risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't so much care about that. I don't really need my testicles for anything. But it also has like very unfortunate psychological consequences. It makes me more angry, and it makes me substantially more anxious. And high doses seems to reduce my fluid intelligence temporarily. So not fun.
Yeah, but how do you balance it? Do you still the benefits are so high that you don't consider the cons?
I consider the cons, and for me the trade-off is worth it.
Yeah.
But I use now much lower doses than I have in the past, way more lower doses than typically folks my size use. And I try to do it intelligently. I always get lots of blood work and health screenings and stuff. And I have made peace with the fact that I'm not optimizing for health or longevity.
Really? How come?
If the way I see it is this: the probability that I die before my 60s with how I'm using steroids, I'm 42 right now, is low. Probability I die before my 50s is very, very low. Possible, but low. And if the biotech revolution that will make all of us live super long and all that stuff, if it's coming in the next 10 years. Sure shit, 20 years. Probably more like 10.
Really?
Yeah. Probably sooner, but 10 is like very, very comfortable estimate.
You're talking about the speed of the rate of how the science is evolving.
Correct. Yeah, so that we can have at first better drugs and then genetic engineering and age reversal. And so I think that the probability that I'm going to live to see that stuff is high. And so I probably won't have to pay some kind of really crazy major costs. Probably, but not certainly. If none of that's coming and that's all hallucination and it's never going to happen, or it's going to happen in hundreds of years, so I'm going to die anyway, and my quality of life, living how I want, matters to me. And so that's kind of how I see the trade-off. So
yeah, first of all, I would love to get into longevity as well and this science behind it. I would love to hear it. But when you say that the benefits are higher, is it the way you look? This is
the way I look.
This is the benefit.
Yeah.
And should people use it, in your opinion? Other people?
No.
No.
I mean, like if they want to, sure. But if people want to replace the testosterone they used to be getting in their 20s with testosterone replacement therapy, I think that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Is it the same thing? It's not.
Some of it's the same, some of it's not. So I take TRT, but sometimes I take steroids on top of that. Other steroids.
Yeah.
And then within the next few years, we're going to get drugs that reliably grow muscle without the use of steroids and have very few side effects and don't harm your health. And so I'd say anyone who's really interested in getting really jacked should probably just wait until those drugs come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is this aspect, but what about, I heard you talk about plastic surgery. What about that? How do you approach it in your life?
I've gotten plastic surgery twice. Once was to remove gynecomastia, which is breast tissue. That's not really, it's technically a cosmetic procedure, but it's more like, oh, this is screwed up, we got to undo it. And then the other surgery I got was to remove a large fraction of the fat cells and skin cells that had grown in my love handles. And that I had done like about a year ago.
And how do you feel about it a year after?
Phenomenal. One of the best decisions I've ever made in retrospect.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it looks awesome.
So what do you do? How do you approach it, like, philosophically? Is this something that people, or you yourself even, before we talk about other people, is it something that do you think is the right thing to put on the top of your value hierarchy?
I can't say it's at the top of my value hierarchy. It's not even close. But it's somewhere in my value hierarchy. For me, how I look is like a lifelong art project. And sculpting myself, yeah. And I get a huge amount of pleasure from doing so. And so when part of my sculpture, my love handle area, had too much skin, and no matter how lean I got, it wouldn't cooperate, which is like how skin works, then I assessed that it was going to be a worthy trade-off for me to excise the skin with surgery. And so I did it. And I think philosophically, to me, you have certain ways you'd like to be and you'd like to look, and you'd like to move through the world. And there are certain costs and trade-offs to various ways to make those things happen. And if you're comfortable with the trade-offs, then I bless you to do any number of things that intervene with your natural state of affairs to end up getting you closer to what you actually want to be. I think that there are a lot of people who have various protestations about plastic surgery. I'd love to address any hypothetical concerns you've heard or any you have, but generally I think it's just a tool. Like, you don't want your teeth dirty, you use a toothbrush and toothpaste. You're going bald, you put whatever on your head that people put on their heads when they're going, I don't fucking know what it's called, I don't care. And your teeth look fucked up, you get orthodontics. You have a part of your body that won't respond to exercise or diet and can only respond to surgery, and you really want to look different, then it's potentially some trade-off that you can make.
Yeah, I think a good analogy that perhaps is different from the one that you gave is eye surgery for sight, to remove the need for glasses.
Sure, totally. To me, I haven't even done, so it's called LASIK surgery. I haven't even done that because the super, super tiny chance that something goes wrong and my eyes get fucked up is so scary to me that I haven't done the surgery yet. Also, my vision is like, I require like very small corrective lenses and just for driving. And I can drive at 100% competency without my glasses. I just like more comfortable to look at things on TV and in driving when I have my glasses on. So for me, it's just not worth it to get LASIK because I'm like, I hardly need it at all.
But there is the aspect of being efficient. It makes you more, it not just about the looks in the eye surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your case, it's just the looks. It doesn't give you anything other than that.
Correct.
Yeah. And this is, I think, the thing that people criticize is just this aspect. It makes people feel icky.
Yeah. The vast majority of those people don't seem to have thought through why it makes them feel icky. And most of the time when they express their reasoning as to why it makes them feel icky, it becomes a non sequitur. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So one of the things I hear is like surgery obviates hard work. Like, you don't need to do the hard work if you do the surgery. Well, it's actually just categorically wrong because surgery is not free. Surgery is tens of thousands of dollars. You have to work very hard to make tens of thousands of dollars. And so you work at your job, you make money, and then you go and get surgery, and voila, now you look better. Why and how is that philosophically different from working hard at the gym or whatever, or eating right?
Yeah.
And also, to me, there's no trade-off because I was already getting everything I could out of training and eating. The surgery was just something I could not alter with training and eating and drugs. It had to be a surgery for me.
Yeah.
So for me, that is, my answer to those criticisms.
Yeah, the thing about the teeth, I think, is a good example because people don't seem to criticize people who make the correction, the artificial correction for the teeth. A famous person will be Cristiano Ronaldo did it, but also Matt Rife just recently, and no one seems to say anything.
Yep.
So why is that in your opinion?
I think that people judge people's appearances in some kind of moralistic way, especially with regard to body fat.
Mm.
And I think that people think that if you have excessive fat, that you should work hard to diet it and to train it away because that will prove how dedicated you are. That's cool. It's true also.
But you say you couldn't have achieved it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the vast majority of people that criticize me for a cosmetic surgery have not considered that, or they disagree with it and they're wrong. Most of the folks that disagree with plastic surgery are not fronting what you would call deeply intellectual arguments, to put it charitably.
Yeah, I don't see why people should care what people do. Yeah.
Well, even if you care, I would love to hear some kind of really cogent, multi-layered argument against it, and I've just pretty much never come up against that.
Yeah.
Most people just have a lot of feelings, and they're just expressing feelings to you. One criticism I do get is, why should people trust me with fitness if I had to get surgery to get fit?
Yeah.
And the answer is they just didn't scroll back enough in my timeline to see that I was ripped to shreds and fucking gigantic without surgery. But I just had like some love handle situation in some poses. And so it's just like nominally easy to find these photographs. People just don't do that. And also, I think they just get a lot of feelings about it, or they just didn't like me to begin with. I understand not liking me. I'm not for everyone. I say a lot of controversial shit.
I want to go into that if
sure.
Because first of all, I don't see why people should criticize these parts, but you do get a lot of criticism online.
Yeah.
Perhaps you engage with it, and you
sometimes.
Yeah, and perhaps you facilitate it, but. How do you deal with it in your life? Because it really is a lot. I see a lot of it.
So I typically just don't consume it. So there's like multiple YouTube channels that make substantial amounts of money criticizing me.
Exactly.
So first of all, some of these people are just they're criminals, criminally minded people. They don't have a robust sense of fairness or a robust sense of, right and wrong. They're opportunistically would criticize. I don't feel special for being criticized. It just so happens that I'm popular enough and controversial enough that criticizing me goes viral. Because if it didn't go viral, they would just stop criticizing me the next day.
Yeah.
And to that extent, some of those people is, we all have to learn a living, and they just got to make their money somehow. And when it's super successful, then they just make their money criticizing me, which is cool. The other thing is I've made a lot of money and had a lot of success by criticizing other people. The difference between how I criticize other people, though, is that I rarely make it personal, and I'm just I think they're exercising or eating wrong. And here's why. Many of my critics will just seemingly not like me, who I am as a person or something, and they have a lot of feelings about me, which is super cool, but it's not a lot of substantive criticism. I'd also say sometimes their substantive criticism is correct and I should be criticized. Much of the time it's just incorrect and they're just completely out of their league. But the people that consume their criticism also don't know a lot of science things, and so they end up just speaking to a very dedicated group of folks that don't like me. And so it's supply and demand. there's a demand for hate content about me. They are supplying it, and I got to respect that.
First of all, the thing you mentioned about popularity, I find it very common. Even me in Israel, just the moment you become a topic, you get opinions. So people talk about you, and people just say whatever. It doesn't even matter. But you mentioned that there is some controversy that you perhaps need to address, and criticism that you need to address. You had one issue, which was the PhD issue. You approached it and you engaged with it
poorly.
Poorly?
Oh. Very sloppily. Most of the controversy is because of how I responded to the criticism.
Oh, I see.
So I didn't take it really seriously because the individual criticizing me makes a living off of criticizing me. I was probably like his 8th or 9th video. The videos that he does about me do like 10 or 20 times better than the video does about anything else.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of just doing his job. And so this is a person that is just seems not like me or whatever, and does not argue in good faith. He does a good job rhetorically appearing to argue in good faith, but that's not the reality of the situation. And so initially I didn't want to engage with the criticism, because there's like a trillion people that argue against me in bad faith. So what he did was he took my doctoral dissertation, which was 13 years old at the time, and went through it and found, I would say, 2 substantive criticisms and a lot of other criticisms, which was just like a misunderstanding of how the scientific process works and how the doctoral process works. So the substantive criticisms were a substantial amount of spelling and grammatical errors. Those were real. Mm-hmm. The other was that the data I had on some of my tables seemingly made no sense. And that's because when I was taking my dissertation that I defended and prepping it for submitting it to the graduate school, I mistransposed a series of tables. I have since made an Instagram post documenting this entire process. Folks have seen this.
Because of that, I was surprised that you said that you handled it poorly. Because I've seen it. It was like, it happens a lot.
Well, so one of my friends said that the dissertation this gentleman was critiquing seemingly was a rough draft. And I lazily agreed because I just frankly didn't give a shit because this person is like a hatefluencer or whatever and not a person I consider worthwhile of discourse with.
I see.
And so I was like, yeah, sure, it's a rough draft. And then later I was like literally hours later, I was like, I looked through it again. I was like, fuck, that's not a rough draft. So I posted a retraction. And then so like, as things go, some fraction of the internet of mostly insane, not so intelligent, or frankly like evil people jumped on this because it's fucking great content, God bless them, and they like manufactured this idea about a conspiracy and all this other stuff, which I wish it was a conspiracy. There is no conspiracy. It's just my idiocy. My ultimate argument for this is obviously I actually had it out with one guy in my comments, which I shouldn't be doing. He was very much bad faith. And he was like, I think this is a conspiracy. And I was like, it's not a conspiracy. I just fucked up. And he's like, really? You expect us to believe that? I'm like, well, have you seen my dissertation? Is it really a surprise I fucked up? He had, of course, no response to that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that once you account for the mistransposed tables, it's a fine piece of published doctoral work. I received almost no criticism from anyone with a PhD because everyone who's made a piece of literature in that regard is like, Jesus Christ, I got a ton of messages and comments are like, dude, if someone looked at my doctoral dissertation from 10 years ago, I don't know what the fuck they'd find. And so it had some typographical errors, considerable number of them. And it also had the mistransposed tables. And so this expose video basically ended up saying that, a bunch of the conclusions were sort of foregone. That's not true. Basically, they were like, we already know these things. They're obvious. In 2012, 2013, working with athletic populations, none of them were obvious. People would debate us constantly. Sport coaches would debate us to tell us that weight training did not improve athletic performance, that having more muscle while at the same time less fat did not increase your running speed or jump height.
And most of people I've seen celebrate this, this hate that was spreading during this time. this was their main criticism.
Yeah. And so like they just took for granted what we know today was what we knew 12 years ago, but that's not the case. And even though the evidence-based establishment knew this, the PhD was designed to address like concern the coaches would have. These were Division I athletes. It was one of the first times that this kind of athlete was ever tested. And so we were trying to illustrate very basic fundamentals of like, look, like if you have more muscle and less fat, and then you're going to sprint faster, which is actually kind of neat because you can say, look, if you put your athletes on diets and make them weight train, they're going to run faster, which most coaches at the time did not agree with. Many coaches today, sport coaches, don't agree with. Most people in the muscle building side of the internet assume these as facts because they're fucking facts. But in sport coaching, most people have never seen sport coaching happen. At least 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it was some dark times, and before that much worse, to where people would tell you like weightlifting makes you slower, it's a waste of time, it gets athletes hurt, and all that's just fucking wrong. And there's also a thing where they tell you in a PhD program, you should not try to conquer the world with your PhD. You should just try to put in some solid research and get it out there, and then later you can conquer the world and make these crazy studies. I had ambitions for another study I actually did complete, which was much cooler, but the decision was made for me in my doctoral program that do this thing and then you'll be good to go. So I did. And so the mistransposition of the tables thing was the thing that like, and then me handling it and saying it's a rough draft, not a rough draft. After that, it was like, oh, he's a fraud, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so, and because I had like, created quite a bit of critical content, I had upset a lot of people who liked the people I was criticizing, and then it was a good opportunity for them to get back at me and national sport, which, I had it coming, so I'm not too upset about that.
And you seem to take it very easily. You don't.
That shit happens. The thing is, like, it's also, there's a really big difference between how people conduct themselves online and how they conduct themselves in person.
Of course.
I've had one person ever say something rude to me, ever, about anything related to my online persona. And after he said it, he summarily physically ran away as soon as he said it, which was strange. Everyone else is super nice, super chill, or just shuts the fuck up. So online, people conduct themselves very differently. If you're just not used to the online world, I grew up more or less with the online world, so I'm used to people being completely different online than offline. And if you're not used to it, you can have a real bad time. Also, content is content. So when people make hate content of me, it's not actually directed towards me or at me. It's directed towards and at their audience. And so I just don't consume it. I don't read very many comments. I'd like to be in a world where I could read comments, but the vast majority of people, let me take that back. The significant but substantial minority of people that comment, they're behind faceless private profiles. They're trolls and cowards. And these aren't people in the real world who will even look you in the eye when you see them. Yeah.
And so many of them are actual bots
also. A substantial number of bots, I am told. I don't know much about how the bot system works.
I know about it. It's a real issue.
Sure. Yeah. So, so like for a while I felt quite bad about the PhD controversy because I felt like I had done something wrong. But really the only thing I did wrong was mistranspose a table before submitting it to my publication.
This is so common.
It sure happens all the time, but it sucks. It sucks. And then I was upset that I handled it so poorly. But shit happens. I'm not. I never claim to be flawless or know everything. And then the rest of it's just people who would use anything else to detract from me. And God bless them, you got to talk that shit somehow. There's many things that can be used to detract against me. I'm unfortunate looking. I'm short. I have a gigantic gut. I got plastic surgery. You can keep going down the list. And so because I have been, I'm not personally critical towards anyone on the internet. It's a bit different. But when you don't have a lot of substantive critiques, you go right to personal shit. And you get a lot of haters. I get plenty of hate for being Jewish. That's really? A new thing for me. Oh, tons, fuckloads of anti-Semitism all the fucking time. Yeah, all the time. Yeah, it just doesn't bother me much. Yeah. But it shit happens. The other thing I have to remember is when you have millions of followers or whatever, or so many people know about you, 1 in 100 people is going to score really high on indices of psychopathy, dark tetrad, like Machiavellianism and stuff like that. And they're really just they're not nice people. They're pretty bad people. Yeah. And, 1 out of 100, if you have 100 friends, is one fucking asshole person who hates you. when you have like 5 million friends, quote unquote. Whoa, holy shit. I mean, that's like hundreds of people, if not thousands, that will like really, really like work really hard to try to bring you down, which again, is like, I can't possibly take personally because also none of these people know me personally. Like if you know me personally and we have beef, respect. But especially, I just really don't get pissed off at people. There's like lots of YouTubers that will like take my like, personal drama and make videos out of it. I can't get mad at that, man, because like this paparazzi, like does Julia Roberts like get pissed that TMZ says something about her? Like she might, if she did, and she was like, hey Mike, what I do here, but like, don't take us personally. They're just doing their job. And so YouTubers
lots of
and shit like that.
similarities between you and Julia Roberts.
I mean, mostly the physical. I think we look almost identical, but really acting skill, I think just like I'm pretty high up there. She's also really good, but I mean, I've been doing this a long time. So I will say like one thing that is, it's strange. I wasn't ready for is like, I never wanted to be famous. I never planned on it. And when it happened, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's weird. Like I go out into the street and like it dependably at every airport and most restaurants at every major city, multiple people recognize me, come up and talk to me. And like, that loss of anonymity is kind of trippy. So that has been like a weird thing. So the internet controversy, I'm no stranger to, but in real life, like being a known person is like, whoa, huge trip.
Whoa, yeah. I feel the same way in a very small scale, but in Tel Aviv where people just recognize me.
Yeah.
But it's not... you have a special thing about you because you do criticize people a lot. You got your first traction on YouTube doing this. So how does this feel, where now you become so known that you are the source of criticism?
Yeah, so I can't feel bad about it, right? I mean, it would be highly hypocritical of me if I was like, it's so unfair for me to get criticism, and then I'm like, that criticism is part of how I got my fame.
I had Ido Portal on my podcast just a few months ago, and we talked about your criticism of him, and it was very lightly treated because it was very not personal, and I think you did it in the right way, but you did, as you said, many people got upset about it.
Sure. So Ido Portal, I don't know as a human. I have every reason to believe he's a good person. That is my default assumption about all people. And so I never in a single time during criticism would say Ido Portal is a bad person. Do I have misgivings about some of his applications of training science? Absolutely I do, but that's part of healthy debate. Am I going to criticize Ido Portal? Absolutely, as well as you should criticize me. Much of my criticism is exactly that. People think I train wrong and stuff like that. That's awesome. Some of the criticism becomes just like personal. Like they just fucking hate me and they just like, they think I'm like bad as a person or a liar or something like that, fraud, etc. That stuff, if I really got into, would be very upsetting. And I've been down roads before reading too many comments where I was like, man, I hate this.
I see you comment on stuff on Instagram back and forth with people, and I just baffled. I don't know how you do it and why. So like, just in my small scale, if I even read comments, it just disrupts my day.
Sure. So sometimes I think that people who comment, they lose the sense of what they're doing as just speaking to another human being. And sometimes I like to go in there and fiddle with it a bit just to remind them they're speaking to a human. So they'll be like, oh, you suck. And I'll be like, you're a coward. And they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have a private profile. Like, how can you expect me to take seriously your criticism if you don't have your real name in your face? You know who I am. You know I'm a real person. I'm on here with my real name. These are my real pictures. You're on here with a burner account. Like, you should feel ashamed of thinking you're on my level, because as a human, you're absolutely on my level. But I don't see you as a human because you're too fucking scared to get at it. That usually people are like quite confused about when you get at them. They're like, nope, you're a fucking coward. And they're like, a lot of people will DM me very unkind things they've heard from other content creators. And I'll DM them back and ask them, look, why do you feel that way? And 95% of the time, like, oh my God, dude, I love your stuff. And I'm like, you just said like a really hateful thing. It's like, oh, it's just a joke. I'm like, okay, sweet. It's just a joke.
People just want your attention.
We're cool. I guess it's something I know. Most people just never do stuff like that. So a lot of times when I interact with commentators or people that DM me, I'm like really just trying to figure out like, what are you like as a human? And the vast majority of them are 15 years old, to be completely honest. And it's like, when I was 15, I'm sure I would do stupid shit like that.
Yeah, but when I think about it, I never truly comment like on a video that I even like. I'm a huge fan of several shows.
Same.
I never comment anything good or bad.
Yeah.
So it's like 1% of the people who watch comment, and you engage with them. And
the vast majority of commentators are either very, very extroverted, very exuberant people, or very toxic, very negative people that honestly I think are just having a really bad day. Like when I'm most tempted to comment something negative is when I'm in a real shit place. When I'm in a good place psychologically, I just like think everything's great. And so some people are just like pieces of shit. And when they have a bad day and they're pieces of shit and they're just in the comments 24/7.
Yeah, just when you said before about how according in the aspect of fat and fat loss and everything, it's you need to give into consideration the aspect of our, ancestry, evolutionary part of us. And this is another component of a mismatch between the old world and this world, which you never should have. You are not designed to contact with millions of people.
Yes.
You're supposed to contact with 150.
Oh, yeah.
2 of them are romantic partners, potentially.
100%, man. So, yeah, when you get an input stream of like just thousands of comments, it's like too many people talking at you and you can't talk back at some of them. So every now and again, I pick someone who's like trying to mess with me to just talk back to them. And I always end up feeling pretty good about that, but I just can't do it to everyone because I just don't have that kind of throughput. The funny thing is because I'm addressing this, people are going to clip this, and I'm creating, literally giving money to people who content create off of this.
Yeah.
And so they'll clip what they need, they'll leave out what they don't.
Yeah, so you just need to let it go. I think.
Yeah, fuck them. Enjoy the money, fellas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next thing I want to ask you, and you do, we discussed off the camera, but your consumption of GLP or GIP.
Yeah.
I want to get into it, but I still want to address longevity as a whole thing. And you mentioned the science and the progress of the science, and just what people should know, just as we gave protocol about muscle building. What should people know about longevity?
The biggest thing I want to get to people about longevity is that the fundamentals of how to live your life to enhance your longevity are remarkably simple. And they account for the vast majority of what enhances longevity in today's day and age. It's very important to say today's day and age because the times are changing very fast. The top things for longevity is to eat a healthy diet, mostly lean meats, veggies, fruits, whole grains, and healthy fats. To maintain as light of a body weight as still keeps you healthy. So if you could be 180 pounds, or you could be a healthy 150, 150 is going to make you live a shitload longer than 180. To maintain a roughly lower percent body fat. For males, something around 15% is pretty good. For females, around 22. And to maintain a high degree of muscularity, other than, low body fat, low body weight, the rest should be nice and muscular. To engage in regular physical exercise, definitely resistance exercise, as well as cardiovascular exercise. To get plenty of sleep. To live a lifestyle that presents you with occasional high stressors, but also presents you with lots of recovery. If you understress yourself, you lose robustness in your systems. That's not the ultimate way to be long-lived. But if you always chronically overstress, you're for sure going to die earlier. But generally, staying slightly on the lower stress side of things is probably a really good idea. And then
just one clarification: we are talking about the ability to live the longest. Or just also the ability to be younger while you are going through life.
Like almost the same question.
Really?
Yep. And then there are differences there, but they're super, super tiny compared to the grand scheme.
Yeah. Right? So what you say applies to 20-year-olds and 60s.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. Just when you're in your 60s, this shit is kind of life or death. When you're in your 20s, you can fuck around and do dick about it, and probably just won't die within the next 20 years.
Yeah, but you will get wrinkles and be less.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. You will age faster if you don't do these things, for sure. And another big one, so there's two other big ones. I think I'm probably missing a few, but these are two really important ones, is to maintain a strong and connected social interaction and social circle. It seems that the literature on social interaction is quite robust, such that people who maintain contact with their families, relatives, friends, they meet up often, they chat, they live substantially longer than people who are isolated. Humans are social animals. Let me amend that statement. Humans are some of the, if not the most social of all of the animals. You know how like we consider leaving your dog alone for 14 hours a day at home kind of unethical every day. It's even more unethical for a person, but people voluntarily leave themselves alone all the time and then wonder why the fuck everything is deteriorating.
Oh, yeah.
Huge thing.
Is it a stressor? This is the reason?
Loneliness is a huge stressor, yeah. But there may be something subtle, something else going on underneath the hood that's not quite a stressor, but is the absence of stress relief. There's another thing which I think I'm going to be talking about on my other channel, my progress channel. Physical touch is a humongous healing effect, massive fatigue reducing effect on humans. It is a necessity. And a lot of people just don't get nearly enough physical touch. Touching yourself doesn't count. Sons of bitches. If it did, holy shit, I would be like fucking Einstein of this shit. That's a big deal. So lots of social interaction, cuddling, things like that. And then another one that seems to come up in literature often is having something meaningful that you're engaged with that is a source of a lot of deep accomplishment and deep construction in your life. Maybe something bigger than yourself, even maybe something like a hobby, but that you're very involved in. So people that tend to play musical instruments, people that tend to play chess, people that are involved even in online gaming communities, people that have a tribe, a purpose, a grand architecture of why they wake up in the morning. Having that purpose and meaning seems to be really big in predicting longevity. Some of the people that have had very stressful lives but have been very involved in deep work, they live into their 90s and you're like, how the fuck did he make it into his 90s living like that? Every day they woke up, they knew exactly what was going on and what they were going to do about it. And so some people who live alone, absent of physical touch, they don't have many social interactions, and they are either retired or they do work that's not very meaningful to them, they're in not a prognostication for living much longer. Wow. And those are the things that most people just don't seem to know about much.
Yeah, okay, so many questions. But first of all, in regards to, strength activities, and should people... I heard that one of the things that cause mortality around elderly people is falling down and not being able to do anything about it physically, not knowing how to fall, and then it becomes just a radical downhill spiraling.
Yeah.
So is it this part of building your muscle and just being lifting weights in your when you're becoming in this elderly ages?
Muscle size and having active muscle on your body that you're chronically using is going to increase your metabolic health completely independently of the strength that it gives you. So it's just totally different pathway. That's the predominant pathway by which muscle makes you live longer, for sure. So muscle is a huge glucose sink. It eats up glucose, prevents you from having high blood glucose, which is anti-diabetic, which is great. It also causes the release of various cofactors that reduce your total systemic inflammation considerably. So that's most of the reason why muscle is really important to have. But one of the big things about aging is that physical activity and socialization are huge for longevity. But if you can't walk and you can't move around, you're not physically active anymore, your metabolism starts to go to hell. And if you can't make it out of your house to go interact socially with people, you just sit there. Like I had a grandmother that lived into her mid-80s, and for the last 10 years of her life, Daniel, she just sat like in one fucking chair, like 95% of her day. And that's not tenable for survival. She was for sure diabetic and all this other crazy shit.
Yeah. So I hear that in everything that you're talking about, going to a home in your these ages is good for you for many reasons, socially and actively.
Versus staying by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Especially if you go to a senior citizen's home, which has a robust activity schedule and socialization curriculum, it's going to be way better for you than sitting alone by yourself. That's for damn sure. Yeah, so I think like older people who don't get visited much, who spend a lot of time alone, is like a gigantic unsung tragedy of the modern age.
Yeah.
And I think that, people keep wondering, oh, when robots start doing more of our jobs and AI, what will we do? Well, I'd much rather a person in their 40s not sit in an office and do this. I'd rather ChatGPT 7.0 do that. I'd much rather them go and spend hours of their day sitting with and walking with and talking and cheering up older folks, of which there are like tens of millions, and around the world hundreds of millions, and just nobody to talk to them because you just don't even have a job like that. So I think that's a really, really big deal.
Also, in the other group of like 20-year-olds and even lower than that, but in this area, loneliness is a big epidemic. I know that like 70 people give the data on themselves that they don't have anything meaningful to send a message in 3 a.m. if something happens in this category of people. So
there's a lot to say about the loneliness thing. So one reason why loneliness is a big focus nowadays is because it was always a problem, but just nobody gave a shit. Like one of the reasons autism in some measurements is higher than it used to be is because people just bother to diagnose it now, where before you're just insane or something. They just didn't have a catalog for it. So loneliness is definitely something that deserves attention, but is finally getting it. So that's like probably half of the loneliness epidemic, is there was always a loneliness epidemic, just people just didn't give a shit. The other thing, though, is I think the incredible ease and convenience of modern life means that people can live alone and they can feed themselves and everything's fine and they can go to work. Everyone has cars, internet has connected everybody. And so because you can live alone, that doesn't mean you should live alone. But the should message never really got sent. And so a lot of people have been living alone, but maybe that wasn't a good thing to begin with. The other thing is that the internet did this wonderful thing by connecting the loneliest people in the world to the rest of the world. So like before, if you lived in rural Iowa by yourself, you might have gone days without speaking to anyone, maybe weeks. Now you can go, and as of actually the late 90s, you could go into chat groups, and now you can go and do chat roulette on video. You can just talk to people till 3 a.m, which is a miracle. And God bless Mark Zuckerberg and all those people that made that happen. Seriously, not a joke. However, a lot of people who are maybe more introverted or out of convenience or more preferable to live alone have taken the social interaction, the social throughput that the internet has given them, and sort of, I don't want to say that there was a willful intent here. They ended up being like, okay, this is my social interaction. But the problem is that social interaction, as humans need it for health, isn't just through a screen.
Yeah, you talked about touch.
It's touch, it's embodied presence. You and I are sitting here together in front of each other. This is going to check my box for social interaction like at an order of magnitude more, at a different qualitative level than if you and I had done this through Zoom.
Exactly.
It's not even close. But because we're talking to each other through Zoom nowadays, some people just don't even go out and get the social interaction they need because they don't know they need it. And so people are texting more, they're doing Zoom more, they're in DMs more, but they're not engaging in social interaction. There's another problem. Some people used to have the situation where they would want social interaction, and so they would go in and get it. But now we have social media, and people can have parasocial relationships, which means you're kind of know the person that you're following, but they don't know you and they've never heard of you. And so social interactions,
you treat him like he's your best friend.
100%. And so the problem is that's one way, and it's very low bandwidth. So we took a problem which was some people have no one to interact with. We completely solved that, but we solved it with like an icing on the cake level of solution, and the cake is missing. And so one thing I think that may be on the horizon once AI and robotics really kick off is we can turn our attention to problems that we sort of know already. Some we don't, but some we know, like loneliness, and really now we have a workforce to solve them. And if we don't have to work because, robots make us super abundant, then we can get to like properly socializing again like we used to. Yeah. And I think a lot of that's going to have to unwind some really gnarly trends that have occurred over the last 20 or 30 years. I think one of the trends is as people become more isolated and as they consume more news media content, they begin to mistrust other people and they get scared. So like a lot of people, if you talk to them randomly on a subway, they're like, whoa, like it's weird for them. Whereas back in the day, people used to engage in random conversations more. On the aggregate, the world is safer than it's ever been, but people paradoxically think it's less safe. Like in the 1970s, people just tell their kids like, hey, just be home by 9. Don't get yourself killed. Don't kill anybody. All right, see you later. Kids would just fuck off and go play. Nowadays, a lot of parents don't let their kids out of their sight, and we're wondering why kids are like more fragile and more concerned. Like, well, no shit. They always think they're going to die because mom and dad are like this all the time. Yeah. And so I think because now AI and robotics are going to become so powerful, it can be a really good opportunity for humans to start working on the more human side of things.
Yeah. What an elaborate question. I love it. So thank you for it. I want to go into the more of what you should eat and stuff like that, because I think we should close the loop, and we're approaching to the closing of this episode. So what should people eat in order to gain muscle, to build it? And I want to ask you specifically about you, because I knew you and you just shoved this carb pretzels, yeah, and you didn't even want it, but you do it because you have to. Yeah. So how do you treat food, and how should people treat it as well?
So I think that people should separate their food into two different categories. I call it business food and fun food. Business food is when you treat food as fuel and sustenance for your body. That means you consume about 4 meals per day, roughly evenly spaced. Most of them are composed of lean protein, veggies, and some combination of fruits, whole grains, or healthy fats.
Lean protein is either fish or chicken.
Fish, chicken, beef, eggs, milk products. Beef can be lean, you bet. Yeah, depending on the kind of cut you get or kind of ground beef you get. Tons of fish, all that stuff. I mean, almost every kind of protein can be lean protein. So those are the kind of meals that look like a picture of healthy food. You got some brown meat stuff, you got some green shit there, you got some pasta, and it's nice. That's how most meals should be eaten. And if you're in a rush, you can have a protein shake or a protein bar or some protein snacks. And that's how most people should eat most of the time. And then when it's time for some fun, they got to get their protein in. But then you can eat like a couple meals here and there on a Friday night, Saturday night, when you're on vacation, that are just designed to have fun with. So definitely get enough protein. You can bring like a Pure Genius shot with you or something, get your protein in, and then you can eat like fuck all ice cream and pizza and dessert. It's all really good.
Really?
Oh yeah, sure. Every now and again, it's totally fine.
You should be mostly looking at the calories and not the ingredients.
I mean, I wouldn't even look at the calories much. As long as you're at a healthy body weight and you're eating mostly good food and you're physically active and lifting, a couple meals a week of just bullshit is probably just not going to do anything for your health or not going to do anything for your body weight.
So the best thing to do in order to build a muscle is vary your meals throughout the day in practically in the same manner 4 times a day, is what you say?
Yep.
Don't wait till, many people say that, don't eat until 2 p.m.
Yeah. That's a fine way to do it, but probably not ideal. As long as your overall macros and calories for the day are good, that's fine. But it's probably good to eat 3, 4, 5 balanced meals throughout the day. 5 is pretty extreme for high muscle growth type of stuff. 4 is great. 3 is totally fine for most people. But I think 4, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and evening snack is like a really, really good way to go about it.
It's not just the same meal. It should be quite different.
Yeah, sure. You can eat the same meal or you can eat differently. You just have to make sure that the meals are roughly composed of lean proteins, veggies, whole grains, fruits, and healthy fats.
I see.
So the big problem that makes probably the biggest impact on obesity is that most people don't eat most of their meals as business meals, and they try to make too many meals fun meals. So if they're like traveling for work and they walk into a convenience store and they have a business meeting in a little bit, they're stressed. They want something that makes them feel good psychologically. So they go for candy bars and ice creams and stuff. That'll fuck you up. That'll make you fatter.
I
That'll
heard you
bad health.
explain something very, very important in this, which is the flavor of the food.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you make it more flavorful,
You're going to want to eat more of it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to overeat.
Can you explain it?
Yeah, totally. So humans will typically consume more food if you make it tastier. And if you make food tasty enough, they overconsume it and then they get fat because they have too many calories presented over time and not enough physical activity. And so if you eat a lot of business meals, one of the categorizations, not only should they be healthy, but they should taste good, but not great. You know, who goes back for seconds of broccoli? Like, hey, God bless you if you do, but usually you don't.
Broccoli can be amazing.
Can be amazing if you put a lot of cheese on that motherfucker, but that would back to the same problem.
Yeah.
So business meals should be like, if you're ranking taste on a 1 out of 10 scale, 1 is like feces and 10 is like if sex was a food, then, you know, your business meals can be like 6. And then your fun meals can be, 8, 9, 10, right? But if all of your meals are 9s and 10s on the tastiness scale, you're going to have to do a lot of work to make sure you don't gain a lot of weight from that. So if most of your meals are business meals, that's actually also better for kind of your motivation, kind of dopamine system. Because if every food is like a super fun situation, it ends up kind of making you really look forward to all of your meals. It distracts you from your day. And the probability you're not going to get fat in that regard is just really, really shit. So mostly business meals, a few fun meals here and there. I'll tell you this. The fraction of very overweight people that eat mostly business meals and very few fun meals is profoundly low.
Yeah.
And this is something that folks who are maybe not saying this in a very nice way, but there's a huge grain of truth here, is when they see people that are very, very overweight, sometimes they say, typically not to these people, that would be insane, oh, this person just loves snacks, they love food too much, or they just eat junk. And, there's a couple of politically correct retorts of, no, it's my metabolism, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that's true. But for the most part, that's actually true. It's rare to see a person who weighs 400 pounds that got to that eating, pasta with olive oil and chicken chunks plus celery. Like, fuck, man, that's probably not the case. And a larger than necessary fraction of their meals, maybe half, maybe more, is from hyper-palatable, very tasty foods, fun meals in which they pick things off of the menu based on how they're going to make them feel from a culinary perspective, not is this nutritionally concordant with my goals. So if you go to Subway, perfect example, Subway's a great restaurant, and it's a business meal, you get whatever kind of bread, doesn't matter, but whole grain bread, just as an example, whole wheat. You get a 6-inch sub, you get chicken breast or turkey, double meat, you do a light spritzing of some kind of sauce, you say just a little line, nothing big, stuff the shit out of it with the veggies, have a diet drink or a water. That's a fucking business meal. But you can also go to Subway and say, I want a foot long, I want meatball sub, I want extra Parmesan cheese on that motherfucker and whatever other kind of cheese you have. I don't want you to spray that shit down with mayo. Why not? And I also want 2 cookies and a bag of chips. Now, one of those meals is way more fun than the other, the fun meal. But the thing is that a huge fraction of the world goes to Subway and restaurants like it and just orders that second meal. Yeah. And that's the thing that's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
Just in the business side, I'm sure this is where they make their money. They wouldn't be successful with only business meals, I think.
Well, for Subway, so I'll tell you this, probably, but I'm a fan of many things that are politically incorrect, and one of them is defending major corporations. So here I go. Subway, at the end of the day, I'm sure the humans that work for Subway, the people on their board of directors, I'm convinced the vast majority, if not all of them, are decent fucking people with families and relatives and just like you. They're like you and me.
Of course. Yeah.
And they would want a world in which the market signals tell them that, hey, people are eating more healthy food, introduce more healthy options. Subway already has a shitload of healthy. It wouldn't matter to them at all. But there are also people that go to work and look at market signals of what people actually buy and consistently see that a huge numbers of people are just want junk. I've said this in a few podcasts before, but this is an amazing thing. McDonald's used to have a grilled chicken sandwich that was at most locations. Daniel, do you know they just don't have the grilled chicken sandwich at most locations anymore?
Yeah, people don't want it.
People don't want it. McDonald's there's no conspiracy. The people who lead McDonald's are people, the fast food industry wants you fat. I'm sorry, what? Why the fuck would they want you fat? If you get fat, you die at 35, that's one customer they lost. They're too greedy for that. They want you to be immortal, to eat 8,000 calories a day, never gain an ounce of body fat, and eat only what you want. If tomorrow humans change, aliens came down, waved a magic wand, and humans all showed up to McDonald's and were like, I want bodybuilding meals. The next day, McDonald's would re-architect their entire supply chain to get you fucking bodybuilding meals. They could give a fuck. Yeah, so whatever Subway makes their money on or doesn't make their money on is only and exclusively because of supply and demand.
Of course. Just there's the famous saying about McDonald's, which is the most of the business model is about do you want fries with that?
Yeah.
It's the upsell. This is what I'm saying.
Sure.
I didn't mean it's the conspiracy.
No, I didn't think you did.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think like, oh, the fast food restaurants are responsible. They are in no way responsible for doing anything other than giving people exactly what they want. And here's the thing. Here's my bullshit that I get on. It's so convenient to pretend that obesity is somebody else's fault. You want tasty foods, motherfucker. That's what you want. And now you're fat. And you can dig your way out of it, no problem, with a bunch of different strategies. But one of them is eating like an adult, which means you don't eat anything you just want to eat. You eat stuff that you have to eat. I don't like brushing my teeth. I don't like brushing my hair. I don't like picking out clothes to wear for the next day. But I do it because otherwise I'd be naked and I guess I don't have any hair with nasty teeth in public, and I don't want any part of that. And so eating is like that. It's an adult thing. Can you imagine letting kids choose what they want to eat all the time? Holy shit. I mean, geez, Kellogg's stock would go up because, children's cereal would go through the roof, but it would be a bad idea.
Yeah, okay, so this is about obesity, but the common man who just, is gaining fat and is just overweight a little bit and he doesn't know why, the thing about the palatability of the food is very important. So if you just reduce it by a little. Just don't. I enjoy, very rich pasta with creamy sauces.
So good.
And I found out that this is a real reason for why I eat more than I should.
Yep.
The next meal will come sooner than when I eat no creamy cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
If your food is tasty enough, you want so much of it that you start looking forward to it more. And you eat more of it at any one sitting, and you go after it more. This is an example of potato chips. They're so good you can't eat just one.
Yeah.
Broccoli, you can eat just one. You're like, I could even eat 0 if I have to.
Yeah.
So as a responsible adult, you have to, if you understand this dynamic, then it's a really good idea to tell yourself, look, business meals are good. Why do I have business meals and fun meals? Why don't I just have business meals in this diet philosophy? Because we're human and life is meant to be lived. Some people like Brian Johnson can eat only business meals, and that's what he does. And God bless him, he's probably going to never die, which is fucking awesome. Yeah. But for most people, it's a tough sell to be like, look, see this fucking weird green shit on a plate? You're like, okay, you could only eat this forever, man. What? So it's totally fine to eat some bullshit every now and again. Most of your meals could be tasty, but should be healthy and not so psychotically tasty that you're eating way too much of it.
It sounds very closely similar to how you describe the rest, like vacation.
100%.
Take a vacation food-wise.
Yep, take a vacation food-wise and have all the fun that you want. But if you only do vacation, you run out of money really fast. And if you only eat tasty food all the time, you run out of health really fast.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we should start to close things up, but
Sure.
I want to ask you about your consumption of GLP-1 or
Yeah.
what is it exactly that you take and why? And what should people take from it?
I'm on a doctor-prescribed weekly 5 milligram injection of tirzepatide, otherwise known as Mounjaro or Zepbound, manufactured by the Eli Lilly Corporation. God bless him. God bless you, Eli Lilly. I guess Eli Lilly himself's not around. Or is that even a person? Maybe that's two people. Who knows?
Sure.
It is a GLP-GIP dual agonist, which means it functions like those hormones in your body, except way more.
Just for people who doesn't know, this is the same one as Ozempic. Just it's something different.
GLP is the Ozempic one.
Yeah.
GIP is an additional one.
Yeah.
So it's another added layer of effect. So because of that additional one, tirzepatide is even healthier for you than Ozempic. And not only does it seem to reduce hunger, but it reduces cravings more at a deeper qualitative level, in my experience. And so from this, you get unbelievable health benefits. The drug is anti-diabetic. It reduces whole body inflammation. It reduces neural inflammation. It cuts the rate and progression of cancer by massive margins. It reduces bad cholesterol. It reduces blood pressure. It reduces the propensity for heart disease. It's not a panacea, but it's close. It is a health elixir. I say this all the time. I get shit for it all the time. I will not be shutting the fuck up about it until and unless science proves me wrong. Most adults should be on tirzepatide. And it's better for most people to be on tirzepatide than not on tirzepatide. There are some classes of drugs that are really bad for you and you should only take them if you're really fucked up. Like, let's see, what's a good one? Dilaudid or fentanyl. Powerful painkillers. If you just got your leg chopped off and you're on your way to the hospital, they better give you something. Now, you don't want to take that shit when you're not fucked up because it will screw you up. But when you're really messed up, you better take it. There are other drugs that are like 50-50 in context. They're not like good for you to take just cause, but like if you have a serious condition, they have low side effects. Blood pressure drugs. They're not for everyone because if you have low blood pressure, you take them and you pass out, you hit your head, you die. But if you have high blood pressure drugs are great and they have very few side effects, et cetera, et cetera. So that's like category 1 drugs you should only be taking if you really need to be taking drugs. Category 2 drugs are like drugs that probably won't kill you or are good to take, but not for everyone. Category 3 drugs are drugs that are probably better for most people to take than not, and they have more beneficial effects than they have bad effects. 2 examples, and there's one of them I got from my friend Mike Varshavsky, the other also Russian, also Jewish, Dr. Mike, but he's better looking and taller.
No, your podcasts are amazing.
They're trippy, huh? It's like 2 mirror images. I'm like evil Dr. Mike or something. My submission to this category is tirzepatide. His submission was vaccines, both of which are correct. So like, who should be taking the measles vaccine? Everybody. Unless you fucking want measles, which are real bad and kill a bunch of people. Yeah. Who should be taking tirzepatide? Most American adults.
Like vaccines?
Like vaccines.
Wow.
That is a personal opinion of mine. People can feel free to disagree with me.
Of course.
But I frankly think I'm early to the party on that one, and I think time was probably going to vindicate that opinion. But
so
if
it's like a vaccine for obesity. You should take it as
you can think of it like that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's not as strong as a vaccine. That would be dope, but is a meaningful counter to obesity. And even here's the thing about tirzepatide. All of the effects I just listed to you that were the good ones, they're all non-weight mediated effects. If you lose weight, all of them get better. But in studies of tirzepatide, now done on just untold numbers of people, they show that all of these effects are beneficial even if you don't lose weight. That's a big deal. So if you take tirzepatide and you don't have a high appetite, you might start to get pretty thin. So you'll have to eat tastier foods in order to get back to your normal body weight. But the drug overall is a massive health elixir. I forgot one more thing about the drug. Mm-hmm. In recent published data that I actually learned from Crisell, I think I'm saying his name right. He's like a Twitter person. The fucking man. He's like the greatest thing ever. He's like, everything he posts is controversial and true, and you just end up like, fuck, okay, he's right. There is longevity data now on this class of drugs, and older people who took GLP-1s just outlived older people that didn't. And so it is now just categorically true to say that there's high likelihood that this class of drugs are literally longevity drugs.
You said reduce neurological inflammation, which means inflammation in the brain?
Correct.
So this is something that usually correlated with weed, actually. That is something I heard many times from scientists in this field.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that weed somehow makes brain inflammation. I'm not sure.
With what? With weed?
Weed creates brain inflammation. This is something that I heard.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of drugs create brain inflammation.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff creates brain inflammation. Weed almost certainly does, but also like just being alive does. Sleep contracts it substantially, but man, there's nothing like tirzepatide for that shit.
Really?
Oh yeah. And interestingly enough, I think CBD reduces brain inflammation.
Yeah, not a lot of CBD in current drugs.
100%. Yeah, you got to take a shitload of it, and it's not a big effect. Tirzepatide's a way bigger effect. And so there's a very good chance that drugs like tirzepatide promote long-term better neural health and probably delay the onset of various neurodegenerative disorders. So
it helps you in the part of, the appetite? Reduces
I mean,
your appetite?
I'm gaining right now. I'm trying to gain weight, and holy shit, is it hard on tirzepatide?
Exactly.
But I don't have a problem with my appetite. I have the opposite problem where I can eat a fucking horse, no problem. And so I can just like I take 5 milligrams of tirzepatide year round, and then when I want to lose fat, I introduce retatrutide, which falls off a truck and somehow arrives at my house. It's not an FDA approved drug yet, but soon will be. And that's like a crazy fat burning version with even more health benefits than that. Yeah.
Okay, Tov, so many things we discussed here. I want to ask you one final question, if it's okay.
Sure.
And again, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So I want to ask you, what's the best advice that you ever got throughout your career that perhaps made the most effect, the biggest effect on you? And from who was it from?
Oh, man. So around fitness, my friend Broderick Chavez, I was asking about steroids and how much steroids a person can take to get maximum growth and what the trade-off of health is. And he said something very wise. He said, I wouldn't look at it as a trade-off. I would think health is the foundation of athletic performance. If your health is bad, then you're just not going to be an athlete. And so what you really need to look at is what kind of drug protocol maximizes my health within certain constraints and then gives me performance on top. Seeing health as a non-negotiable for athletic performance and not as a trade-off is a really big eye-opener for me, because I was like, fuck, right, that makes sense. And then another piece of advice, very, very different, was actually given to me by an individual that I was training. And he was a hedge fund manager in New York. And he was in his early 40s, which is where I am now. And I was in my mid-20s, and I was having a real not so great time that day. And I looked really glum. And he was actually being trained by my friend Nick Shaw, him and I have started a company since. And he's like, what's wrong? And I was sort of told him, it's just a bad time, financial trouble and all this other stuff. And he said, listen, your 20s are going to suck. Your 30s are going to be way better. Your 40s are going to be unbelievable. And I was like, anything these people said, I was like, just completely like open, like, yes, the total wisdom. And I reserved a probability that he was just saying nonsense to cheer me up. But I also reserved a probability that what he was saying was correct. I also reserved one that was his experience, but maybe it wouldn't transfer to me. It absolutely exactly described my life trajectory. And it was like really, really intense that advice panned out. And so I think my best kind of recapitulation of that for anyone listening is like, if you're a young person and your life kind of sucks, keep making the small moves to accumulate skills, muscle, fat loss, consistency, career, education, being a good person. Do that over time. And even though today might kind of suck a little bit, tomorrow's probably going to be a little better on average. And then in a decade, people will recognize you because you're so awesome compared to how you used to be. So anytime you're feeling bad about yourself, remember the long game, you're probably going to do really well.
Whoa. Is it really in the aspect of 30s and 40s? This is exactly what the trajectory of your life?
Exactly. Absolutely my trajectory and exactly what he said. Yeah. My 20s were a confusing time. My teens were way worse. So my 30s were cool. And I mean, Jesus Christ, my 40s, you know, like I'm 2 years into my 40s.
Best decade so far?
I mean, look, like there's a bunch of shit that I end up saying that I get criticism for. So it sounds cocky or fucking weird. But I'm a regular ass piece of shit like everybody else, probably worse. And I'm along this weird ride. And I gotta say, man, if I ever find myself bitching in my own head about, a particular YouTube video we made isn't doing well enough, or whatever, like, I gotta fix my car, a flat tire, Mom, my life's so hard. I just say to myself in my head, you're rich and famous, shut the fuck up. Because I remember like reading, not tabloid magazines, but like watching like celebrities do stuff when I was in my teens and 20s. And they would be like, I'm just having a tough time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're rich and famous. Shut up. And honestly, it works. So if I was to tell you I was having a bad time in my 40s, it would just be unconscionable. I live a life that to any version of myself earlier would just be described as a psychotic dream life. And I'm just trying to peel my Jewish guilt away from that to actually be able to enjoy it. So
yeah, I think people should invest their 20s in order to have their 30s and their 40s better, because people sometimes do it the other way around.
Oh, you don't want to do it the other way around. Also, here's another thing. Age reversal is coming. And in the mid-2030s, there's a high likelihood that people are going to start reversing in age en masse, and then we'll all be in our 20s again. But they're not just going to be handing out stacks of free money to everyone. I mean, I'm sure some of that will happen, but like the skills and the friends and the career and the money you make now will be like extra super fun when you're age reversed later. And even if you're not age reversed, like, man, your 40s, 50s, like I remember watching my parents and their experience of life and their friends. And I got to tell you, man, people in their 50s and 60s are having a goddamn time of their lives. And you're going to have a better time of your life in your 50s and 60s if you built such an amount of wealth and career expertise and family and children. Like, if you're going to have kids, have them in your 20s, because then like when you're in your late 30s and your kids are going to college, you like look around, you're like, holy shit, we got all this money, we have incredible careers, the kids are gone, let's go. So like I'm a real big fan in general of front loading. Front load the work, front load the suffering, calmly, diligently, don't overdo it, take some rest, but build. Because if you ever get real tired, you can look around and go, holy shit, I've gotten ahead of everyone. I don't even know what the hell's going on. That's a much better place to find yourself in versus partying like an animal in your 20s and 30s, which is sweet, but then realizing your 40s and 50s, you're like picking up the pieces and you're like, I've built nothing and I'm starting from zero. Yeah. I'd much rather build first and enjoy later than the other way around. And that applies at every time scale. Work really hard Monday, Thursday, and then even Friday, half the day, and then just chill like a crazy person on the weekends. I hate that in between shit. I hate deadlines in which I'm coming up to the deadline and I still have to work. Get your work done first, get it done early. That applies to every day, every week, every month, every year, and I think it applies to the decades as well.
What an amazing message to end on. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike Israetel.
Daniel, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome.
It's been great. Yeah, thank you so much.